Okay, good afternoon, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's Technology Forum. As you know, this year is the 30th anniversary of City University of Hong Kong, and the university has decided to organize a series of activities to celebrate its 30th anniversary. And I'm Paul Lam, I'm the director of the State Key Laboratory in Marine Pollution. And I was asked to organize a forum to deal with topics such as food, energy, and the environment. So when I got the task, I said, I have 5 talks. What should I include in those 5 talks? So I decided to send out a questionnaire to all my students, family members, friends, and relatives, and ask them I have a series of topics, and ask them to take. It turns out that the 5 topics we're going to listen to today were the most popular ones. It includes conservation of wildlife, turtles, horseshoe crab, energy-saving devices, genetically modified food, and forensic science. Those were the topics chosen by the public, and hence we have these 5 different talks. My suggestion for today is that I will invite each of the speakers to come up to stage and give a 20-minute presentation. And we will save all the questions till the end. And then we can all sit around and answer questions from the floor and any comments you might like to make and so on. I want it to be as interactive and informal as possible. I have to apologize, I'm a little bit overdressed today. It's not because I don't normally wear like this, it's just that we have, at the same time, at this precise moment, we have another occasion in Wai Hing Theatre, and the university is presenting honorary fellowship to 4 members of our community, and I have to join them afterwards, so I do apologize for being a bit out of place today. Now, having said that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. George Ballas. Now, he is an expert. I spent at least 30 years or more working with turtle, so he must like them. And I need to introduce him as the Vice Chair of the Oceania region of the IUCN Marine Turtle Specialist Group. In fact, he works for the US government, a very high-ranked, high-profile organization responsible for the conservation of wildlife, probably not just in the US, worldwide. But being a US civil servant, he is not allowed to be introduced as a civil servant, so I introduce him as the vice chair of a group. But in fact, I have introduced him as a civil servant. Without further ado, I'd like to invite George to come on stage and share with us his 30 years or more experience with turtles. So please, the floor is yours, George.
Thank you, Professor Lam. Thank you very much for the 30 years, because it's been closer to 43 years. I'm just not as, maybe I look a little bit younger than I really am. So thank you so much for inviting me. And congratulations to City University of Hong Kong. 30 years, what an achievement. And what a beautiful facility you have here. I visited here about 3 years ago, but I didn't get a chance to look around, and I'm just tremendously impressed with what I see, and especially the people of Hong Kong. Well, I say to you, aloha, because I come from the Hawaiian Islands. A little bit earlier in the day, someone asked me, what does the word aloha mean? Well, it's a multi-meaning word. It means hello, warm greeting, come to our home. It also can mean a sad farewell, aloha, please come back again. And probably if we had to typify one word for the word aloha translated out of the Hawaiian language, it would be love. Love of fellow human beings, love of the diversity of people we have in our Hawaiian Islands. What I'm going to do today, this 20 minutes. I thought it was 25. So we'll work hard on it. Okay, very good. I need that instruction, and I can look at it right here too. So the title of my talk is Magnificent and Mystical Marine Turtles, Cultural Links to Conservation. And what I'm going to do in this short 20 or 25 minutes is to tell you a little bit about sea turtles. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Hawaii and how our Hawaiian Islands links so tightly to South China and particularly the Cantonese people of Hong Kong. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Hawaiian sea turtles in particular. And lastly, I'm going to have a whole series of pictures about the culturally, mystically aspects of sea turtles in Hawaii and China, as I have found them to be so very interesting during my career. Hopefully the presentation and especially the photography will be informative, educational, and I hope a little bit entertaining too. So I start out with the theme that I'm going to say, and that is, I just thought of it in the last couple of hours, humans worldwide throughout all time have had a natural, cultural, historical bond to animals. We eat them, they're our pets, we milk them, we get eggs from them. We are linked to them as tight as any two groups of people and things could be. And this is especially so for turtles. Truly, they are magnificent and mystical, and I hope when we're done with the presentation, you may agree with me. There are about 300 species of turtles in the world, but there are only 7 marine turtles, ocean turtles. And all 7 of these ocean turtles have things in common. They lay eggs on sandy beaches, they breathe air, they travel long distances, but they have a lot of dissimilarities too. So I'm going to show you 5 of the 7. The other 2 aren't as important to Hawaii and the China region. So we'll just quickly go through and familiarize you or re-familiarize you with some of the turtles. The leatherback, the world's largest living reptile, up to 650 kilograms is the largest specimen known. Truly an ocean migrator, but feeds on the lowly jellyfish, salps, tunicates, things like that. And they do migrate along the China coast and travel throughout the Pacific and globally, actually, penetrating very cold climates to the north and to the south, New Zealand, southern island of New Zealand. The hawksbill turtle, which is a sponge eater and more sedentary in the reef environment. You have hawksbills here. There's one over in Macau that will be released with a satellite tag in the coming week or so, I understand from my colleague. The olive ridley, which I show this picture because it does remind us that big things eat little things in the ocean. It is the way of the wild. It is the way of nature. And humans' association with turtles certainly has been in an eating mode for many years, a part of the conservation problems that some sea turtles have. This is not a dummied up Photoshop picture. My friend Jeff Semenos loaned this to me. That's an olive ridley in the Eastern Pacific being flipped by an orca and eaten. I didn't want to show you the picture of it being eaten. So. Then there's a loggerhead turtle that is well known off the China coast. North Pacific loggerheads, we've done some extensive research with them out of Hawaii, working with Japan. And that tangled web of noodles that you see there represents about 350 satellite trackings that we've done of captive reared turtles out of Japan and showing their pathways all the way across and mainly living for probably a decade or more in the middle of the Pacific, in the epipelagic zone. It's their life, and Please, I hope everyone will notice the Hong Kong flag that I inserted over there. Thank you. And then the green turtle, which is really the favorite in terms of human use, worship, spiritual power amongst Polynesians. The green turtle, Chelonia mitis, gets its English name from the green fat that it has inside of it, and quite delectable to many of the Pacific Islanders that are a part of my Oceania region. And the Hawaiian green turtle, they're a bit different. They're genetically different than other green turtle populations. And I'll show you why, and that's because up there in the right, we're pretty isolated in Hawaii, 8,000 kilometers from Hong Kong. I know, I just sat on a jet for 11 and a half hours to get here. So the other dots shown there is the Marine Turtle Specialist Group Oceania region that I'm the vice chair of. And there are 11 regions under IUCN for sea turtles. There's also an East Asia region, and you are honored to have 2 members from Hong Kong on the East Asia Marine Turtle Specialist Group. So I only show my region here. So Hawaii, out here in the middle of nowhere, truly more isolated than the Galapagos. As you well know, if Darwin would have come to Hawaii first, everything would have emanated out of Hawaii rather than the Galapagos for the evolution theories. The main Hawaiian Islands, we have about 1.4 million people. Compare that with 7 million for Hong Kong, I believe. We get in Hawaii in tourism 7 million visitors a year. Our energy engine is tourism in Hawaii. So I point that out. It's also has volcanic activity on, whoops, we're going to Waikiki first. Waikiki, your Waikiki Beach, Diamond Head figures that people are interested in. And this is what it looked like in 1928. So things have changed, but then Hong Kong probably looked a bit like this in 1928 too, maybe. So Hawaii is well known, and right now the town of Pahoa on the big island of Hawaii is being severely threatened by the volcano goddess Pele. We believe in her. The Hawaiian people believe in her. This is not some fun tourist thing. Pele goes where she wishes. She creates, she destroys. It is a way of life if you live in the Puna district and the Ka'u district on the island of Hawaii. And there are many representations of her, and that was one of my favorites. So she created the island through the hot spot of the plate tectonics, so you can tie it with the real geology and real mythology, although so the linkage with Hawaii and China started in about 1850, when hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese men from South China came to work in the sugar plantations. And this is the Ho Wing House in Lahaina, Maui. And there's a very famous Chinese person that's made 6 visits to Hawaii at the turn of the century. At one time, he spent 3 years there. He went to Punahou School, he went to Iolani School, and I think we all share him as a great man in history, and even to right now. So back to the Hawaiian green turtle, telling you a little bit about my story here, and that is, in about 1973, I started interest in culturing turtles for a farming project with Sea Grant. And I quickly, it didn't work out too well. And I quickly became interested in turtles in the wild. And I quickly got drawn to this little island. You can walk all the way around it in about 25 minutes. And I know I've walked around it thousands of times in my life. 1973, I spent most of the summer on this little island counting the number of nesting turtles, because our source stock is this little island and some other islands near it in these shoals that are in the remote northwestern end of the Hawaiian chain. And that was me in 1973 or 74. See, Ka-shing, I had darker hair then. And I went up there and would be dropped off alone to count turtles. And the first year, 1973, I went back to Honolulu and said, I counted 67 turtles. And that's no conservation security to a population as remote as Hawaii. I'm going to fast forward now 42 years later and show you one of the greatest success stories in the sea turtle world, I will say. Remember, all sea turtles are listed as endangered under the IUCN, but Hawaii is listed as of 2 years ago, least concern. And the least concern comes about of what we have monitored for 42 years, and that's what happened to the population. You can see 1984, where CityU started. You could see 1978, where my first son was born, and it's kind of like the rings in a tree looking through it. And what do we attribute it to? We attribute it to good fortune that our islands are so isolated. We also attribute it to a buy-in by the Hawaiian people, by the Hawaiian community, to stop hunting for commercial purposes. Hunting for commercial purposes for the tourist trade was killing the turtle population. And when that pressure was taken off, the turtles restored. Our biggest year just came in this season. The man just came back. I don't go out there anymore. I come to Hong Kong and give talks. 846 turtles counted during the 35 nights he was on the island. So, great success story, and with that success has come changing behaviors in the turtles. If people can see turtles, they have a greatest fondness for them. How can you, that's why we have zoos and aquariums in my mind, to connect with the animals that are a part of our history. And you can stand in the Kona Coast in shallow water and watch the turtles feed right next to you. You also can watch, if you're scuba diving, and see cleaner fish. It's an underwater car wash, if you will. All the cleaner surgeon fish come and pick all over the shell and clean the algae off. So very cool. And we have a basking habit in Hawaii. Basking, they haul up on the beach and sleep. And exactly why they do it? Well, there's a thermal regulation, a thermal advantage to it. But there may be other reasons too. This is out at French Frigate Shoals, one of the remote places. This site is not so remote. It's right in the residential area of the Puluko district on the island of Hawaii. And there are several different sizes of turtles there. So with basking, Dr. Margaret, this is exactly where we took you on Ali'i Beach. Come opportunities for family photos that are taken home by these 7 million tourists that come. Not every one of them sees a turtle. You got to have animals to identify with in some way in order to appreciate and bond to them. Whether your bond is you want to eat them again, or whether your bond is you want to pray to them, or you want to be like this little girl and just contemplate what it looks very uncomfortable, doesn't it? But for a sea turtle, that's not uncomfortable. Its neck is not. Also in snorkeling in the water, you can see turtles these days because they're very abundant. The dive shops advertise turtles. It's a loop. If you have more animals that people can see, then they're more appreciative for the animals and for protecting them, and it just goes in a big circle that is very nice, that I've been so blessed to see over the last 42 plus years. Going out snorkeling, looking at them, watching them feed underwater. Green turtle, by the way, did I say it? They are an algae feeder. They're vegetarians. They eat marine vegetation. And in Hawaii, it's mainly algae instead of seagrasses. When their head goes down, their butt goes up. And when their head is down, they're feeding. And the turtle's saying, just leave me alone, it'll be fine. And surfing, some of it originated in the Hawaiian Islands. Some of the modern artistry involves turtles. I mean, it may look like the man or woman is catching the turtle, but it's really just a depiction of an aspect of Hawaiian culture. There are legends that relate to sea turtles in Hawaii. The lady or turtle Kauila, who can change herself to a turtle, to a woman, to a turtle. And her benevolent spirit was one that protected children that play around this particular bay, Punalu'u Bay. And is that Kauila there in the turtle form? It could be. Do people believe this is real? Absolutely. Does Balaz believe it's real? In my science sense standing up here, I better not answer that question. Not today, anyway. Bronze monument that was put in at Punalu'u of Kauila in the turtle form, protecting the young child. And if you look very quickly, this artist's rendition of the reflection of Kauila in the water and in the sky also. So I mentioned about eating. Dr. Lamb had on there food, environment. Well, turtles have been a food for people globally. That's been a fact of life. You can't change it. And this is 1967 in the Hawaiian Islands, one day's catch in Kaneohe Bay. Unfortunately, though, the tourism industry was creating a demand for turtle steak. And that's what these turtles were destined to, instead of going to the home, going to a graduation, going to a wedding, something special in life. It was turned into McDonald's hamburgers of sorts in Hawaii. And I'm so glad those days are over. And I will be so glad again when the Hawaiians can take a turtle for their own use here and there on a sustainable basis. And the statement I've just said is exactly why I asked Professor Lamb not to introduce me as a government employee, because I would not be allowed to say that, what I just said. So, but it's under the IUCN, the IUCN, the World Conservation Body, is sustainable use. It is difficult to determine what is sustainable. I recognize that, but still, the foundation of IUCN is sustainable use, sustainable harvest. I mentioned praying to turtles. This is a lady on the island of Maui. She is of Chinese ancestry, and we have a special turtle that does nest in Lahaina. And I was on the beach, and I met her through this turtle. Her name is Busaba Yip, and she is the caretaker of Chinese things for Lahaina. And it's in her soul to restore Chinese people of ancestry back to where they should be, because most Chinese in Hawaii don't speak Chinese. So one of her missions is ancestry. Take care of the graves, the things that you take for granted here. I took this picture of her. This was not doctored up. She was down praying that Kuan Yin would take care of this beautiful turtle so that she could see it again. So some people eat them, some people pray to them. It's okay if there's enough to go around and it's sustainable. Nothing wrong with the diversity of uses. I'm going to use that as a bridge into things more Chinese and step up my clicker here. We all know that the earliest pictographs in China were on the plastral bones of turtles, or the scapula, flat scapular bones of cows. So this is amazing to me. Well, maybe less known to you is this pattern. This is the pattern that is underneath the thin fingernail-like plate of a turtle. If you peel it off in a dead turtle and you look at it, you look at that pattern. Now, I don't know if any of you recognize this, and I don't know if I discovered it in Hawaii at the Honolulu Academy of Arts or not, but if you will look at many Chinese artistries, you will see what I believe is called the cloud pattern. And it sure looks to me like the same pattern. Somebody in ancient Chinese history saw this pattern and started patterning after it. So in Hawaii, the early Chinese would buy turtles from the Hawaiians, write their name and a blessing on the back, let the turtle go, and the Hawaiians would then go catch the turtle again and sell it back to the Chinese. They thought this was great fun. We could just keep selling it back to the Chinese. Well, we don't do that in Hawaii anymore, but this is Hainan Island, and I believe the Chinese characters on there say that blessing of Kuan Yin for the turtle and for the person. And this is very common amongst the Buddhists, which you're probably very familiar with, and that was the title picture that I showed there, big green turtle with the blessing going in the water. There's another type of turtle but it's not really a turtle. It's a BC, one of the 9 sons of the dragon. But certainly the shell of the BC looks like a turtle to me. And this is in Tainan, in Taiwan. And one of the BC is actually in the Bao'an temple in Tainan and is worshipped as a god. The turtle stone itself is worshipped as a god. And fascinated with this animal. I spent all day yesterday looking for a stone BC in Hong Kong, and I didn't find one. If one of you can come up to me afterwards, I'd really appreciate knowing. People like to touch turtles, and we have some commonalities where we have lots of non-commonalities between China and the USA, People's Republic of China. This is in Guangdong province on June 11th, 2012. And everybody's touching the turtle and letting it go. These are some high-level officials. So common to people, here is Hanauma Bay. This was December 27th, 2011. And let's see if I can make the pointer work. That man right there standing next to Mr. Balaz, and that woman right there are President and Mrs. Obama. So they really enjoyed letting some turtles go. Commonality. People like to touch turtles. They like to let them go. There's something happens between the animal and the people. So I'm going to go even faster now. Mainly pictures. I was so blessed in 1998 to have gone to the Penghu Islands of Taiwan and witnessed the turtle sacrifice ceremonies there. I gave a presentation in 1999 to the International Sea Turtle Symposium, and there the goddess Mazu is supreme, Queen of Heaven, protecting fishermen of the Penghu Islands. And I noticed immediately that they put Mazu on the back of a giant turtle made with 5,000 kilos of rice bags. That's rice, 5,000 kilos. So I've gotten an affection for Mazu, ocean state of Hawaii, why not? I thought 5,000 kilos was a pretty good one, but this last February, 16,888, that is kilos, right? Does it say kilo on there? I hope it does. The people in Penghu, the temples like to compete with one another to see who can make the biggest turtle. And certainly this was the biggest one on record that I had ever heard of. They also make small turtle cakes out of rice flour, and you offer them to the gods, and then they eat what they want, and you take them home and you eat it yourself. They also make cake only one time of the year. It's 15 days after the Chinese New Year, the Lantern Festival. In Penghu is the turtle sacrifice. And rice cake turtles, how about gold turtles? I mean, real gold turtles. Solid gold turtles worth probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. The high person that drops the half-shaped moons and the gods say, yes, you can have it, they get to take it home for a year, and all the good luck goes to their family for that year. This was a concrete pool painted gold, but there's a gold robotics turtle in the middle of there that the flippers actually were on a little electric motor going up and down. And another gold turtle at the Suogong Temple. And touching turtles, well, why not touch gold turtles too? And it's a great energy. Look at the smiling faces. The lady in the back there, Felicia, her sister lives in Honolulu for 25 years, and I've been honored to meet her sister. And so then another part that I ask you, if you know of any of these in Hong Kong, please, turtle back tomb. Shape of a turtle on the tomb. The stone turtle gives protection against bad forces and to the person. This is in Maui. The Ho Wing Society actually has an ancestral grave there that they weren't quite sure what it was until Mr. Balaz came and said, I think this is a turtleback tomb. And suddenly, yeah, that's what it is. Nice view, feng shui, the island of Molokai on one side, the island of Lanai on the other. Great place for the ancestors to be able to look out at the sea and the turtleback tomb. This is in Fujian. This is in Fujian. And this comes from the Middle East. This was too good for me to pass up. Buried with 6 turtle heads and other marine life above you. Sounds pretty good to me. And then some contemporary spiritual things with turtle tattoos. Very popular in Hawaii. This man had 8 turtles tattooed on his arm. He works at Sea Life Park. And each turtle represented a member of his extended family. So very powerful for him. And this is a little bit more than a little on this lady's shoulder. All right, so I'm going to bridge into the end here, and I'll say I've made many travels in the China area. I'm very fond of China, people and culture. I can't understand any Chinese, but maybe that's a blessing because people then come to me and want to practice English with me. So that's good. Of all the things one can take when visiting a new place, I ask each of you to remember the most important is for you to take an open spirit, a love of the people, even though it's very different than what you experience. And the people I show you now are people that have open spirit. This is Ka-Shing Chong sitting right down there. He came to Hawaii in 1998 and learned a bit about turtles, and we released some turtles, flower lays on the turtles, as is traditional. Simon Chan came the year before, I think, to Hawaii. And he couldn't be here today because he called me last night and said he got sick. Connie Ng, who is a PhD student right here at wonderful City University of Hong Kong. She came to Hawaii 3.5 years ago or so. And Dr. Margaret Murphy up there in the upper right was just in Hawaii 3 weeks ago for a major China-USA sea turtle workshop that we held in Honolulu. And we had nine people from the China region that came. And my granddaughter, Reese Balaz, who we hope will carry on the love of people, love of sea turtles, and the things that bond them together. She's 5.5 years old, lives in Maryland, and one of these days I'm going to bring her to Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for this wonderful and entertaining presentation. As I said earlier, we will leave all the questions in the end. That is what those solvers are there for. We will then take all the questions. Our second speaker this afternoon is Professor Henry Zhong, who's going to talk to us about smart energy-saving apparatus. In fact, he is the inventor of many devices. Now, you go around in hotels, you have a wireless charger that there's no cable, you put in there. There are many devices that he invented, now used in the US. But he's a very low-key person. I actually did not know that you invented them, because usually someone else would present the work. I thought they were theirs. When I talked to him, I said, no, actually it's Henry Zhong's work. So now you have a chance to tell us all about it. So may I now welcome Professor Zhong to give us a talk.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here to present today's topic entitled Smart Energy Saving Apparatus. Actually, this is one of our research areas, not only saving energy, but how to process energy. And I'm now the professor of at the Department of Electronic Engineering and also director of the Center for Smart Energy conversion and utilization research. Now, at the very beginning, I want to spend about a few minutes to say something about our research center. As I just mentioned, my center, the name is Center for Smart Energy Conversion and Utilization Research. And here's our mission statement. We expect our center can boost CityU's innovative strength and its leading role in researching future energy generation, distribution, and utilization. These are all very important, not only how to process energy, but generation and also distribution, because this will be the future of energy conversion or transmission. And also the second one is to extend our competitiveness with respect to other research institutes in Asia, Europe, and North America. And our research areas include smart grid technologies, renewable energy conversion technologies, lighting. Lighting is one of our major research areas, embedded system, because nowadays power electronics is a multidisciplinary subject which includes a lot of things, including embedded system signal processing and even network communication as well. About our center, right now we have 4 academic staff and about 23 research students and staff and 2 technicians supporting us. And here shows the research areas, including smart power USB, which we believe that it will be the future. In fact, you can see our demonstration on the 3rd floor. We have already licensed this technology to many companies about the future smart power. I will say something about it, this smart USB. And then we have just started a research project on smart city with Alstom in France, which is a very big company. And also the battery modeling, how to store energy, and our technology can predict the lifetime of batteries, and which is very, very suitable for the future electric vehicles. Lighting technology, which is the energy saving device that I'm going to present today, the energy saving, and energy metering management, and how to control and monitor the power consumption of a building or factories, etc. And some research work with companies like this one is energy recyclable burning system. Later I will show you a picture about this project, and solar system as well. And we helped a company to set up a 250 kilowatts solar system in mainland China. Now, first one is the smart USB power. Now, I think all of you know what USB is. It's simply a 5 volt, and then it's possible to charge your mobile devices. For example, the iPhone, Samsung Galaxy Note 2, but it is impossible to charge desktop notebook computers. But with these smart USB ports, we can use this power to charge your laptop and the mobile devices. In other words, students come to CityU. They don't need to carry the AC adapters, but only USB cable. Then they can charge their mobile devices as well as laptops. Then that's why we have tested in our car, okay, just simply to charge my MacBook here. And this smart USB power can automatically identify the device. For example, the brands of the device, the power required, and also it can connect to your mobile phone and keep tracking the power consumption, the charging power of the device. The second one is a project for a company called Amazon Network Power. And this is a burn-in system. Burn-in system is used to test the system. Say, for example, the power supplies for servers, for very big data centers, for example. Then after the manufacturers produce the power supply, it is necessary to go through a process called burn-in system. In the past, in the old days, they have to use computers or some dissipative devices to test the power supplies. But with this burn-in system, it is possible to recycle the energy, not the waste, but recycle the electricity into the power grid. And based on the tests, we find that the system, this 30 kilowatt system, we built it in CityU. We can save up electricity for burn-in system by more than 75%. And the payback period is talking about 9 months. It's very, very effective and very, very useful. It can reduce the greenhouse gases production. The third one is the smart inverter. The smart inverter. This is a 250 kilowatt solar farm. We help a company to set up this solar farm. Right now, we have developed a system that can convert all this solar power and then convert it into the grid. And at the same time, we have already set up a communication network here. Then this communication network allowed us to keep tracking the energy production or generation, okay, the daily generation, and then we just simply sit down in CityU and then can keep tracking the power consumption or generation of this solar farm in mainland China. Apart from the power, the generation, here shows the energy management system and the metering. And we help the China Light Power to develop this system that can measure the power consumption. We call it the smart meters. Smart meters, that means it's possible to measure the power consumption, the power quality, and then send the signal, the information back to the control center. Finally, this is the power management system we developed for a company, and I'm going to say something about this device. Okay, and this power management system is used for the large-scale infrastructure. For example, road lights, the lights for the whole buildings, for example. And we developed the 3 models. 1.5 kilowatts, 2.4, and 6.8, which is very high power, suitable for road lights, a very long road. Yeah. It's a whole lot of my presentation today, okay, about this smart energy saving device. Now, first of all, I will say something about the electrical transmission system in Hong Kong, because we need to understand right now the transmission system in Hong Kong. Then I will say something about the background of the technology, the concept how to save energy, and also our development, the history of development, operating principles, and also the advantages of this technology. And later we'll share with you all our recent advancements in this technology. About the electrical transmission system. Now in Hong Kong, the power transmission system is very simple, simply divided into 3 parts. The first one is the generation, second is the transmission, and finally the distribution. That means generation, transmission, and distribution. And the voltage level is talking about 400 kV in transmitting power, the electrical power from the power plant to the distribution network, the voltage level is 400 kV. It's very high. Right now, our power plant is talking about 220 volts, only the power plant. The socket is 220, but in transmitting power, we need to use a very high voltage, 400 kV, in order to reduce the power loss. Then, after transmitting power, then it's necessary to distribute through this kind of ring circuits for factories, commercial buildings, and residential buildings as well. Now, here shows the electrical network in Hong Kong. It's just like a cobweb, a spider web here. A lot of, the connections here is Hong Kong from Daya Bay nuclear power plant, and then transmit power to Tai Po, etc., etc. See, very, very complicated network. And the voltage level, as I said, 400 kV, very, very high voltage. Now, what about the distribution network? Now, distribution network, the voltage level is not 400 kV, but 11 kV. Now, here shows the typical network, the building. Now, the transmitting voltage right now is 11 kV, and then after this, going through this device called transformer, the voltage level will step down to only 220, just what we are now using, 220 volts, 50 hertz, and then transmit power to each individual apartment here, and of course through the meter room. It's very, very simple. From power station, transmission, and then distribution, the voltage level first of all stepping up to 400 kV to reduce loss. Later step down to 11 kV, and then 220. This is the power system in Hong Kong. Now, our energy-saving device. Now, in order to simplify the connection or the wiring of our system, now here, first of all, here shows the meter room, a very simple meter room. And these are the appliances, including lighting equipment, air conditioners, or whatever. Okay, here. This is the power supply mains, 220 volts, and this is the it is called circuit breaker, just like a switch, on and off. Very simple. Our installation is simply here, just here, inside the meter room. You don't need to change the infrastructure, but simply place the device inside the meter room. Very simple. Now here shows the two models. This is 6.8, 6,000 watts, and this one is 1.5 and 1.5 kilowatts and 2.4. Now here shows the installations, examples. We have installed many devices at the Hong Kong Police Force, housing authorities, and in Singapore as well. The device is, of course, this one is much bigger. The power level is much higher than this one. These are only the low power version, but it already sufficient for their car parts. And our development, the history. Actually, we started from something small. Okay, we started our research work in 2004 from a very small project supported by, under the support of RGC, the research grant. We can only power one light bulb at the very beginning. Only the device can only sustain the operation of one light bulb. Start from that. Then later, with the support of a lighting company in mainland China, we developed the first model for 4 lamps. First of all, 1 lamp, then 4 lamps. And then later, with the support, under the support of the housing authority, Hong Kong Housing Authority, we can develop a much higher power. But we spent 5 years, a long time, 5 years on that. Then later, we get a big advancement in the power, which can go up to 6.8 kVA. It's a very high power for a lot of road lights. During the time, we received many awards from Hong Kong Awards for Industries, and from Australia, a government in Australia as well. Now, about the operating principle, I try to use a very simple way to explain the operating principle of this one. Now, as I said, this is the input. I can say this input, the 220 volts, and this is the lighting circuits or air conditioners. And we invented a so-called self-generated voltage source. Self-generated voltage source, that means it can, based on using, we call it the reactive power, to control the active power. Just like Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a very, very interesting concept. That means to convert the power from reactive one into the active one, the power. And then we find that with this concept, it is possible to use a very low power device to control a high power equipment. Now, this is the key of this technology. Now, I'm not going to go through the detail because it's necessary to go through a lot of mathematics. But the key is that, just like Tai Chi. And with this concept, we have tested the device for many different applications, including fluorescent lights, LED lamps, air conditioners, different types of devices. In very short payback period, talking about 2 to 3 years, and provide immediate solution to reduce energy consumption by about 20%, 10 to 20%. And most importantly, it is not necessary to change or modify existing infrastructure, for example, the lighting network or the lighting infrastructure. And the efficiency is talking about 98.5%. This is very, very attractive efficiency. Then what's next? Now, with our recent advancements. Now, just because the power ratings of the electrical loads are of wide variety or diversity. For example, the air conditioner, the power rating could be 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts, or 100 kilowatts. Then how could we develop a single device that can suit all these things, this different power level? Now, this is our problem, how to tackle it, the question. Then that's why recently we have developed a modular and scalable approach to technology. That means just like Lego. For example, I need to control 100 kilowatt system. And right now I have a 10 kilowatt system. Then I can use this scalar approach. Scalar approach, that means just like playing Legos, making a lot of 10 units of 10 kilowatt system. Then we can make a 100 kilowatt system, just like Lego. And we are quite successful to develop it and test it in mainland China. There is modular and scalable technology. And the concept, just like this, is simply we use a lot of devices and connect them in parallel with this patent technology. We call it the balancing transformer. So just like placing them in a stack, and then can increase the power rating of the whole system. We call it the daisy chain transformer. I'm not going to say in detail about the operating principle of this. We call it the daisy chain transformer. But we have applied this technology for different applications, including LED lights, very large scale LED lights, and also the compensator, how to compensate the power generation. And also, apart from the devices, we have also developed this lighting management system, the power management system, we can use the software and mobile phones as well to keep tracking the power generation, power process, the status, and power quality of the whole network. Quick conclusion. Now, what I just introduced about the energy-saving devices can give an immediate solution. That means it's necessary to change the existing infrastructure to provide, the energy-saving function. And also, it's possible to interface with different mobile devices, including phones, laptops, or even desktop computer for system control and monitoring. And it's a very quick conclusion about the technology. It's 20 minutes? Okay, fine. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Zhong. Even though I do not fully understand the mathematics, I realize that many of the devices are very, very useful and have great implications for our society. Our next speaker is Professor Michael Lam, who is a good friend of mine, and I know him as a very, very competent chemist, but the public probably know him because he talks a lot in newspaper. Whenever we have a problem with our environment, plasticizer in food or the gutter oil, the reporters always ask Professor Lam for comment. They also ring me up, but I also tell them that I don't know anything about this, so please ring up Professor Lam. Because they thought I'm the Lam, but I said, no, this is the other Lam, it's him. The difference between Professor Lam, there are actually many people make comments on newspapers about various things, and the difference between this Professor Lam and the others is that he actually knows what he was talking about. And so maybe today you're also going to tell us something about environmental and food safety analysis and so on. So Michael, come up. And now please remember, it is this Professor Lam that you want, okay? Not me. Okay, come.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you on things that we've been doing all along in CityU, because the title of today's forum is 30 years of research. I've been here 20 years, okay, so I'm still relatively young. And so we've been hearing a lot of good news this afternoon, successful conservation of beautiful turtles, ability to save energy, saving a lot of energy, cut down carbon dioxide emission. But what I'm going to tell you are probably some not very happy news about the environment, because we know that our living environment actually is deteriorating because of pollution, and we see it in the water, we see it in the earth, and we smell it in the air. Okay, so much that once was, were lost, and probably very soon, nobody live to remember everything. Okay, but of course, I mean, it's the wildlife that it's got harm, mostly at the moment, but of course, the deteriorating environment is also going to harm public health, human health, and besides deterioration of the environment, the food that we are consuming is also at risk because of food adulteration, people putting things that shouldn't be into our food in order to increase profit. We've been increasingly not aware of the food that we are eating, where the meats come from, okay, and even now, even though we know where the meats come from, whether these are safe to consume, whether they've been already like or decaying or whatever, okay? And lately, we are beginning to doubt the oil that we've been using to cook our food, because seemingly there are alternate source of oil besides from vegetable or animal. We can actually get oil from the sewage system, okay, and recycle, and probably we've been all along eating those recycled oil for quite a while, okay? And now, all these are sad, bad news about our environment, about our food, and so we've been asking what we are able to do to alleviate some of the agony that we are facing with this deteriorating environment and deteriorating food quality. Okay, so as a chemist, as an analytical chemist, so we are trying to contribute by telling people what's actually inside a glass of water, what's actually inside a pack of food, whether they are safe, whether they are of high quality, and or whether they are going to affect our health. And so all this, okay, to determine what's inside a glass of water or food, or requires, of course, highly trained people and also sophisticated, expensive equipment, okay? And that's why I always advise my students, that's the reason why they have to come to university. That's the reason why they have to study a little bit of chemistry. No matter what sort of career they are going to have, they need to know some science, some technology. If I may say, a little bit about chemistry will be for their benefit, okay? But is it really the case? Do we really need highly trained people, very expensive equipment in order to achieve our goal? Well, somebody tell us that it's probably not true, probably not necessary, especially in the medical science field. And there are a lot of small equipment, small devices that medical doctor, medical healthcare personnel use. Even at home, we use our little infrared thermometer to take our temperature. You don't need special training. You don't need to truly understand the theory behind it. The operation of the equipment is very simple, just one button, you press it, unless the battery is gone, it always gives you reliable readings. Now, these sort of devices are quite common in medical healthcare field. And so, actually, we are asking whether the use of these things can be like, you may say, technical transfer or whatever, to other fields like environmental monitoring, food safety, surveillance, and all this, okay, actually involve the use of sensing technology. For now, in my area, is the development of molecular device or materials that are so smart that able to tell us what things they encounter. Okay, whether they are encountering pollutants, whether they are encountering unsafe chemical, and they give us a report. And in that way, we are able to do in situ measurement. Okay, we do not need to get the samples from the field, transport them back to the lab. In Hong Kong, it's quite okay because from point A to point B, everywhere in the city, you probably need at the most 1 hour of traffic, okay? But in other places, you may need to wait for days before the field samples can be transported back to the lab. But if you are able to do the analysis in the field, it will be much advantageous, okay? You do not need to destroy the sample. The sample is still there. Even after even after the analysis, they can still be used, they can still be eaten. You do not need a lot of sample, okay, and unlike in a lot of very highly sensitive analysis in the lab, you need many gallons of seawater, a lot of samples for you to do the analysis. No sophisticated equipment, and those equipment may not even need electricity, okay? That's why you can bring them out to the field. That's why per sample analysis, the cost can be cut down to very minimal, like less than $1, Hong Kong dollar per sample, versus several hundred or thousands of Hong Kong dollar per samples if you use laboratory analysis, okay? And the operators doesn't need training at all, just like you taking your own body temperature using the infrared thermometer, stick it into our ear, press the button, get reliable reading. You don't even need to read the manual to understand how to operate, okay? Very quick response, and also can be miniaturized and automated, okay? Now, these are all the advantages of sensing technology, and once again, we have already seen this technology in medical healthcare field, okay? Are we able to develop similar technology for for environmental monitoring and food safety surveillance? We would like to say yes, okay? Even though there are not many of these sensors available nowadays. I'm going to show you some of the work that we have done and we are doing in CityU, trying to bring sensor technology into like environmental monitoring and also food safety surveillance, okay? And to start with is the concept of chemiosensing, sensing using molecular devices, and we are talking about like making special molecular devices, a molecule specially made with many components. The most important component is, of course, the receptor, which is a specially designed moiety that can recognize the analytes that you want to measure out of the thousands of different interference in complicated samples like a food, a soft drink, surface water, underground water, or even the atmosphere, the air, okay? And also the receptor links to a signal transducer that give out signal when the receptors, okay, encounter the analyte, okay? And the receptors need to be so smart that out of the many thousands of different species in the sample, they only recognize and bind to their corresponding analyte, and then tell the signal transducer to give out a signal that can be physically measurable, okay? And in our laboratory, we are more interested in light and color, and so you will see later in the following slide that most of the sensors that we developed give out color signals, okay? They can be luminescing, they can change color when encountering nasty analytes in sample. And of course, I mean, even though the operation and the concept so simple, you do not see a lot of these things around. It's because the developmental cost, the operation cost of this kind of sensing is very low, okay, less than a couple of Hong Kong dollar per sample. But the developmental cost is huge because we have to find matching receptors for the analytes that we want to measure, and that's quite difficult to come by, okay? And we believe that we are moving towards developing much cheaper way of developing or coming up with reliable receptors for sensing measurement. Okay, just to give you some ideas about the ability of this sensor, these molecular sensors, this particular sensor is commercially available that respond to calcium, okay? And it responds to calcium in cell or small organs or small animal. In this particular video, it shows the movement of calcium in a Drosophila embryo. okay? And you see that the calcium, the red color thing's actually calcium, and it's real time, okay? That's, you see the calcium originated from the tip of the embryo moving towards the center of the embryo in a pulse manner. And with the use of this molecular sensor, we can really see the movement of the analytes that we are interested real time, okay? Now, of course, just like I said, development of receptors, okay, is a very expensive job and may kill a lot of PhD students, okay? One PhD student working for 4 years, not able to come up with suitable receptors for any analyte, okay? It's not really rare, okay? But of course, I mean, we managed to find some other things for them to do, so they managed to graduate, okay? So, developing receptors very expensive and it's difficult. So people start to think about other approaches, okay, and they turn to medieval mason and look at the way they make, they build magnificent buildings, especially those arched doorways, and they do it by making wooden templates, okay? After erecting the templates, they put the mortar bricks on them, and later on dismantle the templates, and you get those magnificent archway. And that's imprinting, and that's templating. Okay, and similarly, we borrow the concept and developed the concept of molecular imprinting. It's already been very well recognized in the 60s, and later on a Sweden group, we developed the concept in the 90s, and so suddenly we have these beautiful ideas of making receptors really out of not nothing, but out of the templates, okay? And we ask the templates, ask the analytes themselves to teach us how to make the receptors, okay? And the concept's very simple. So you have the analytes that you want to measure. You imagine that it contains all sorts of functional group on this surface. And we, in the solution, we throw in some functional monomer that have the corresponding functionality that recognize the functional groups on the analyte, and also on the other ends are polymerizable groups. Now in the solution, they form kind of very weak aggregate, okay, because they either attract each other or the shape or the functionalities recognize each other and they comes together. And the interaction, you only need very, very weak interaction, okay? And now, after they form this kind of loosely bound aggregate, we throw in cross-linker and polymerize everything, okay, to form hard plastic. And this, inside this hard plastic, you have the analytes trapped. And after some very harsh washing process, you are able to wash out the analytes and leave behind a binding cavities with all the functionalities sticking inside and arranged in a way that they recognize the analytes later on. Okay, somehow these hard plastics seems to carry the memory of its creation. It remember what have created it, and when it's encounter its, you may say, creator, the analytes that imprints it, it will bind to it with high affinity. And that's the concept of a receptor. And so very soon people realize the potential of this and try to amalgamate this technology into chemiosensing. We are also in the beginning of the 90s, and we learned about this beautiful concept. And so in CityU, we started to develop chemiosensor using these molecular imprinting ideas. And the things that we do, we develop special functional monomer. That's the functional group will not only bind to the analyte, okay, in the solution to form loosely bound aggregates, but they also respond to the bindings to give out signal when they encounter the special functional group of the analytes. So though when later on the analytes, or when the binding cavities form and the binding and the materials encounter the analytes once again, and the analytes fall into the binding cavities, these functionality give out signals. And that's what we've been working on all along, okay? And to give you some idea about how we go about it, this is some very early work that we have done, and we imprinted a pesticide called, a herbicide called 2,4-D. Okay, this is the molecular structure, having one special functionalities that we export to do imprinting. That's a carboxylic acid moiety. And so, and we develop a special special functional monomer that contain a positively charged quaternary ammonium functionality, having 2 R group. And these R group, later on I will show you that they're able to give out luminescent response, okay, when these nitrogen interact with the carboxylic anion. And on the far end of the molecules, there's organosilane moieties that's able to undergo sol-gel polymerization. Okay, so when we throw this and this together in solution, they has to form some kind of aggregate because of this Coulombic interaction. Positive charge come together with negative charge things in not very polar solvent, and we throw in the cross-linker, which is just TeOS, this organosilane, and they start to form this sol-gel salylation bond, and this grow just like you make this special like paperweight that you put a leaf inside, and you make this special organic glass, okay? And so this polymerization proliferate and trap the 2,4-D, and later on we wash away the 2,4-D to create the binding site. And if you still see the 2 R group is embedded here, and they still active and able to tell you whether this nitrogen encounter the carboxylic acid functionality later on, okay? But of course, not other carboxylic functionalities can go into the binding cavities. Only 2,4-D can be included in the cavities to give a response, okay? And this is the very crude data that we obtained many years ago. These actually are the 2 R groups, so free, it's called anthracene group, 3 aromatic ring fused together give out beautifully yellow color luminescent, yellow-green color luminescence. Okay, this is a 2,4-D. Okay, and you see that with more 2,4-D, we see increase in luminescent intensity until, of course, it's level off, because inside the materials, we only have limited supply of the binding cavities, and if the analyte concentration increase, very soon it's fill up all the binding cavities and further increase in concentration of analytes. You don't see any increase in luminescent intensity, so that's normal, okay? And so this also gives you some idea about the binding in the molecular imprinted polymer, and you see with the imprinted plastics, we see the higher the concentration of the herbicide in solution, the greater the luminescent intensity. And we also make some control polymer that did not have the imprint cavity in it, and you saw that the polymer the luminescent intensity didn't change with increasing level of 2,4-D. Okay, so that's the concept, and I hope with that we demonstrate the ideas about how we turn molecular imprinted polymer into a sensor. And then later on we recognize that in our environment there are actually a lot of contaminants that we are worried about, but they do not contain any special functional group for us to do imprinting. There are no carboxylic group on them. And for example, a lot of these persistent organic pollutants like chlorinated pesticides, like DDT, some persistent chlorinated persistent organic pollutants like PCB, dioxin, very carcinogenic pollutants, and even like the flame retardants with polybrominated diphenyl ether. Their common characteristic is that they do not have any polar functional group for imprinting. So nobody's able to imprint them and build a sensor for them, okay? And so we come along with with the help of many bright PhD students, and actually it was their idea, okay? I only stand by and do the talking, okay? And their idea was that we built, okay, the imprint polymer, and we embed some reporters in the binding cavity, okay? Of course, using very smart approach, so that these reporters only embed inside the binding cavity. And the binding cavity is, of course, able to accommodate the analytes, okay? And, but of course, without the analytes, and the binding cavity will be filled with solvent, okay? For example, water, which is very polar. And when this organic pollutants come along, and find out that there's actually a very comfortable pocket inside the polymer that so they want to go in. Okay, when they go in, they squeeze out all the water inside the cavity, and to the reporter, okay, to this special chemical. Initially, it's surrounded by polar solvent, so it's very comfortable. It gives out a particular luminescent color. Okay, but after the binding, it suddenly find out that its surrounding change a lot, okay? And all the polar solvent's gone, and the polarity of the surrounding suddenly drops, okay? And so these reporters will call for help and say, my microenvironment changed, I'm going to give another set of signal, which is a luminescent in another color, and then for us on the outside, we know what happened. We know that the cavities actually capture a pollutant. If there's a lot of pollutants outside, there will be more cavities capturing the pollutants. The color of this particular reporters will be in a non-polar environment will be more intense, okay? And we demonstrate the concept by imprinting a special pollutants called TBT, which is known to be the most toxic chemical humans have ever made for marine application. This guy is an organometallic compound. In the center is a metallic element, tin, okay? But on the outside is bound to a free butyl group, which is organic in nature, and also the fourth one is a chloride. This guy is very toxic to marine life, so that people use it to paint on the hull of ship and to deter the growth of these fouling organisms, these mollusks, oysters, algae on the hull of ship. Because if more of them grow on the hull of ship, the ship will go slower, okay, difficult to maneuver, and it costs much more fuel to maintain the speed. Okay, so people invented this in the 60s, okay, and found out that it's super efficient, but so efficient that it starts to kill other marine life along the shipping lane, okay? And now the use of these compounds been banned in small vessels, but of course in big ocean liner, the economic gain of this anti-fouling paint is so huge that nobody dare to ban it. And also in military vessel, because I mean it's military, nobody dare to say anything about banning the use of harmful chemical, okay? But the thing is that this guy is really non-polar, and nobody's able to build a sensor to sense it, because it's basically round-shaped things with no polar group sticking out for recognition, okay? And we use a special reporter, if you still remember, this is this white or yellow rod. And this reporter is very interesting because it is very sensitive to its surrounding microenvironment. And if the environment change in polarity, its color and luminescent intensity also change, okay? Later on you will see how. And we, of course, I mean, this guy is very expensive, and we use a much cheaper mimic to mimic it, and it's a T-butyl ammonium cation. It's much cheaper, but you see the molecular shape is quite close to its TBT, okay? And to cut the long story short, we built the sensor, so you see that this series of test tubes contain the very fine powder of the plastic sensor. We grind the sensor into fine powder, suspend it in alcohol, in ethanol, and we put the TBT drug into it. Zero concentration, we didn't put anything. Okay, so the microenvironment in those materials very polar, and the reporters give out red color. Okay, the more TBT we get in, the more TBT get into those binding cavities, kick out the polar solvent, and the reporter tell us that the environment become non-polar, and I change color from red to greenish yellow, okay? And this also gives increase in luminescent intensity. Actually, luminescence detection is more sensitive than color change, but we like color change a lot because we do not actually need any equipment to see the response, okay? And so this gives you the increase in luminescence with the increase in concentration of TBT with the imprinted polymer. But with the control polymer that we didn't imprint the TBT shape into the polymer, it practically gives no response, okay? And that's our work with molecular imprinting. We've been carrying on this sort of work, okay, and we are now working on phthalates, okay, just like the plasticizer that Professor Lam mentioned about, and people are very interested in building a sensor for industrial screening of phthalates in plastics. Okay, imagine that a manufacturer, he bought tons of plastic raw material ready to make cell phone or like high quality electronic devices. He or she has to make sure that the level of plasticizer in the raw material doesn't exceed the legislation stipulated limit, or otherwise, no matter how beautiful the device he or she make, they will become environmental hazardous waste. Okay, nobody will accept the product. And it will be wonderful if the manufacturer can test the raw material right at the spot using a small device, just like we have shown you, and to tell him or her that, well, the level of those plasticizer inside the raw material is whether it exceeds the statutory limit or below, so that he or she decide to proceed with the manufacturing or not, okay? So we would like to turn our attention to food safety surveillance, okay? And I do not need to tell you how serious we are about food safety and food authenticity these days, okay? Because we are increasingly questioning the quality of the food that we obtain, even from high-end supermarket, okay? But the thing is, there's no way for customer to really tell them whether the money they're paying to buy the food are of good enough quality for consumption. And even though they have doubt, they ask for analysis. Usually analytical lab needs weeks, if not months, to come up with an analytical result. And by that time, food has already been consumed. And so the ideal solution is for us to develop like a smart sensor that enable customer to measure the quality of food right at the spot of purchase. Okay, so they, or right before they start cooking their food, okay? And is it possible? Well, things are coming, and I'm just going to show you 3 recent development in this field. This is a particular invention that got the James Dyson Award in UK last year, and it was developed by a really young girl, and she came up with this brilliant idea of a bum mask. Okay, that's a small tag that composed of 2 things. Okay, on the substrate of the backside, a hard plastic with this bumpy grid on it, but on the top side, the spacing between the grid are filled with a hydrogel. That's actually biodegradable, okay? And so, when the food is fresh, no bacteria infecting those foods like this pack of meat, and if you touch it, you won't be able to feel this bumpy rib on the backside of the tag. But if there's bacteria growing on the meat, and the bacteria also infected this hydrogel, the gel decomposed, and so you are starting to be able to feel this bumpy grid. Okay, so even though this is really good ingenious concept, because you don't even need your eyes, okay, and you just feel it, and to touch it, and you can feel whether the food is fresh or not before purchase, okay? And she even predicted that the effective consumption date can be replaced by this tag, okay? So in the future, you just need to touch the label, and you know that whether the food is still good for consumption or not. And of course, there are other colorful tags that people advertise and developed, and this particular tag, okay, change color from green to purple, okay, by enzymatic action created or produced by pathogenic bacteria growing on food, okay, and so if the tag come into contact with the food, and if the food contains the pathogenic bacteria, the specific enzyme in the bacteria can erode away the specific layer of hydrogel on top and expose the color label beneath it, and so you see the color. Before that, you don't see the color because the color label got masked by that layer of gel. So also very ingenious design, okay? And the last one, which is very close to what we've been doing in CityU for like almost 7 years now, is a tag that responds to special chemicals called biogenic amine, okay? Emitted especially from meat when they start to decompose. Bacteria decompose the amino acid, the protein in the meat, and convert some of the amino acid into amine. Okay, and that's why we smell bad smell from decaying meat. But of course, by the time we smell the bad smell, it's too late. Okay, so this tag has to be very sensitive so that before the meats decompose to a condition that's not fit for consumption, the label's already able to tell you, okay? Now, so this was out in the year 2011, but to be honest, we've also worked on this field since 2006 in CityU. And our concept, well, this explains the concept of detecting those special amines from meat. And these are all the special amines that are created in decaying meat, okay? And they are called collectively biogenic amine. So our concept is, I'll see whether the cartoon can play. This is the meat. As soon as bacteria start to decompose the meat, so it's getting, you may say, rotten, and these biogenic amines start to come out, okay? Now, our device, I'm sorry that I'm not able to show you the molecular structure of our device because we have to protect the IP of CityU. It's the patents owned by CityU, and But this is a concept. We built this is the sensor. The sensor has two components. So they only loosely bound together, okay, but without the biogenic amine, everything's fine. But with the amine coming along, okay, one part of the sensor suddenly realized that it's like the amine much more than the other component. So it kicked the other component away and bind to the amine, okay? And this other component being very lonely, and they signal a signal, okay? And in the beginning, in the 2006, we developed this concept, and the signal giving out actually luminescent red light, okay? We love the red color lights a lot, okay? We actually looked at the red light and got fixed by it, okay? But we talked to investors, and they all hate luminescent because that means all these shoppers in supermarket need to carry this tiny UV lamp and shine on the food to develop to decide whether the tags turn on or not. So later on, we have to build everything once again, develop everything once again, and now we come up with a colorimetric sensor, and the colorimetric sensor detect the biogenic amine vapor and change color from green to orange, quite high contrast, okay, and the beauty of this sensor is that it actually doesn't need to touch the food, so you don't need to be scared about any chemical inside this tag, whether it will contaminate my precious steak, okay, because they are actually isolated, okay, and the sensors only need to touch those biogenic vapor. Now, of course, all are talking, okay, how about whether this tag really works, okay, so my students work very hard to, we are not movie maker, but my students work very hard to capture this movie. We done it in May, okay, and we've been still doing this now, and we are learning along the way, try to do time-lapse movie. It's quite late, 8 o'clock in the evening. The ambient temperature in the lab is about 21 degrees Celsius, room temperature, and we have a beautiful fish wrapped in the container, and we brought it, I'm sorry, they are so clever to mask the source of the fish, okay? And we also have a control, and you see these are the tag. I have some here as well, so but probably I don't know whether I'm able to pass around so you can all have a feel about the sensor. It's something like, it's actually, the materials can be eaten because it's really biocompatible, but I don't recommend you eat it because there's green stuff, that's our molecular sensor in it, okay? And we still have to assess the toxicity of it. But the thing is that the sensor, I'm breaking it up, the sensor doesn't need to touch the food to respond to the biogenic amine. So it's rather fragile, but anyway, it's very cheap, okay? And we are talking about less than 50 cents for each, okay? And if you allow me to do mass production, I can cut down the cost even more, okay? So anyone, I don't know, so I play, anyone like to take a look? Maybe later, okay? And because of the time, and I really want to play this video, you need to wait for a while, and we look at the response of the tag for 24 hours, okay? And it's about 12 hours now, and I hope that you see the tag slowly change color, okay? And for about like 20 hours, the tag completely changed the color, okay? And the reason is because this fish has been left at room temperature for a day, and the proteins in the fish start to decompose by bacteria and give out the biogenic amine and trigger the tag, okay? So how about meat, okay? Interestingly, the meat respond even quicker, probably because it's a big lump of meat, okay? And we did it also in May, a few days later, and the temperature in the lab was a little bit higher, and so you see. And also, my students, I have to thank them because they work really, really hard. I don't know why they always start the filming very late in the evening. And so you see, okay, in the morning, that tag already starting to change color. And so you may ask, well, is it just like some special effect or Photoshop, advanced Photoshop that you have done? Well, I have no way to convince you. And so we have done another experiment that puts the things like fish and meat with the tag here and a control tag at low temperature. Okay, we've been, you see that it's a different clock, okay? Because we found out that our very cheap electronics didn't work in the refrigerators. So because it's too cold and they broke down, okay? And we, of course, we obtain all these from 深水埗鴨寮街, and it's, I mean, that's the quality. So we thought by putting all these on ice. So sorry about the quality, because from time to time, our students have to replenish the ice. So these image shake a little bit from time to time, and you see the ice smell, yes, and they refill it. But the story is that you see this tag never change color because these meats are quite sort of well preserved at low temperature, and so bacterial activities probably lower, and you don't have bargenic amine generation. So we've been working on this sensor even now in the lab. My students still working on it, and we hope that later on we'll be able to introduce to food packaging industry and able to contribute to society by telling consumer that the meats product they are buying from supermarkets are still suitable for consumption. Okay, and that's about the things that we have done in CityU for 20 years. I'm sorry that not a lot. We will work harder in the future. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lam. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but we will save the questions till the end of the session. The next speaker is, again, another Dr. Lam, who is actually a cell biologist. That's his expertise, he's a cell biologist. He's going to talk to us about genetically modified crops, monster or savior. So, Dr. Lam, can you come on stage?
Hello. Can you all hear me with this phone? I teach food safety in CityU. We have a Master of Science program, and one part of the program is about environmental health and food safety. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm over-energetic, so I actually got an adrenaline overdose all the time. It's a medical condition, so I like to walk around on the stage whenever I teach or give talks, so I hope it's okay with you. So I teach food safety, and one of the major components of my course is about not food safety as Professor Lam, not the kind of food safety Professor Lam was talking about, poisons, contaminations, or falsified food. I think the most unsafe situation in terms of food is not having enough food to eat. I passionately believe that. So this is not only just a problem of food safety, but a much larger problem, food security. In that course that I'm teaching every year, we spend a lot of time talking about food safety and food security. And we have lecture about GM food, genetically modified organisms as food. And every year, we have the lecture. I love that lecture because every year that lecture will turn into discussion, and then discussion will turn into debate. A debate will turn into an argument, and then heated argument. It's like that every year. And those people who argued in the classroom, they are science students, right? Master of Science students. So they're science students at postgraduate levels, and they still became very, very passionate, emotionally attached to this subject. So think about outside the classroom. I have many, many friends who are not scientists. I hate to use the word layman, but they are experts in other areas, right, outside of science. And whenever I talk to them about GM food, it's very easy to, it's very interesting because their entire facial expression and gesture changed within 1 second. Whenever I talk to them about GM food, so we may be sitting in a restaurant, right, like talking and very open gesture. Whenever I tell them I'm a scientist, so immediately they kind of freeze a little bit and they look doubtful. And then whenever I talk to them about GM food, they immediately change the body language to be like that, protection, right? And then they look away, no eye contact, and then really, really unfriendly expression. Huh? So, and today I shoulder the challenge of telling you something about GM food. So let's see how it goes. Today I'm not going to tell you about GM food as a scientist. I would like to tell you a bit about GM food as a person who's very, very interested in food production and also eating. I would like to tell you a little bit about the history of GM food, if it's okay. And then I'm going to tell you in the end that this lecture is actually not really about GM food, but about something I personally feel to be even more important than GM food. Is that okay? Huh? This is how we're going to spend the next 20 minutes. So, I told you about food security. We don't have enough food to eat. I'm very, very sorry to say that if you go to supermarket, I don't know whether you buy food on a daily basis, you'll probably notice that the price of rice has increased a lot. Huh? It's because of we simply don't have enough production. So this is the latest projection by the United Nations about the world population. In 2050, this is probably not strong enough. So in 2050, only 35 years later, when our children are in their prime, right, there will be 9 billion people. We're not sure, maybe even more, but our existing data predict this, the best of our data. It is also estimated that the world, our planet, needs to produce 70% more food than it can today in order to feed all these people. So, and another disturbing statistics is, so in around the year 2009 and 2010, around that year, there are, for the first time of human history, more people living in a city than in the countryside. Before, since the dawn of humanity, there have been more people living in the countryside, therefore farming, producing food, than people who are living in the city, such as us. We're eating, we're consuming, but we're not doing anything to produce. So I think this trend is going to continue. We're building mega cities with less and less available land. We're cutting down trees and removing farmlands. Not only we have done that, but we are doing very, very good job in warming up our planet, right? We introduced global warming. So even though we want to farm, there will be not enough suitable farmlands for crops because of the changing environment. So it's kind of really good things, it's really good thoughts to think about when you go to sleep. There won't be enough food. So in order to produce more food, so people have been using 3 types of strategy, right? We want to increase more croplands, maybe introduce farming to the urban area. We also need to improve our agricultural methods, growing, for example, crops that are more closely put together so that we can have increase the productivity of the land and also to increase the yield. So these 3 things are something that we desperately need to do, but these are not new strategies, they're not new approaches. We have been doing that since the dawn of mankind. So we've been doing all sorts of things in order to increase crop productivity. So here's the brief history of human civilization. Our culture goes hand in hand with our agriculture technology. So in order to improve crop productivity, our ancestor has been doing a very good job. They have no background in genetics and molecular biology, but by cross-breeding different kinds of existing crops, they have been doing very, very good jobs in gradually changing the genes, the genetics of edible crops. So I may not have time to tell you this story. I just want to tell you briefly that the story of rice, the rice that we're eating every day, has been a fascinating story of how mankind has completely tamed genetically grass. So basically, I don't know whether you know that the rice we're eating every day, fried rice, they are actually seeds, and they're actually seeds of grass. So we're eating seeds of grass every day, but delicious seed, obviously. So, but those seeds, those rice crops that we'll be eating, they're not natural crops. They have been gradually changing, mutated by our ancestor over the course of a long time. So here, the upper panel are the real rice plant, the original rice plant, the naturally occurring rice plants. And those are the seeds. The rice grains are not white, or even they're reddish brown in color, and they're really, really hard to eat. They're not digestible almost. And the lower one, these 2, are the real rice, the rice we're eating every day. And they are completely different. They're almost like a different organisms altogether. We now know that our ancestor, actually those ancestors, and maybe I will show you this slide. About 2 years ago, scientists in China and Japan, they have done a fantastic DNA fingerprinting, almost like a detective job to chase the origin of the first cultivated rice. They find that the region that we are living in around Pearl River Valley is the place that our ancestors have tamed and mutated this wild rice in order to make the rice more digestible. So when they work out the DNA sequence of the cultivated rice that we're eating today and compare to the wild version, if you like, of rice, they find out they're full of differences in their DNA, and some of the differences are very, very interesting. For example, because they are seeds, right? So and the grass being blown in the wind, right? The wind will help to spread the seeds. But imagine you're cultivating rice. How funny would that be if you want to harvest the rice, but then there's a lot of wind, and then the wind will blow your rice all over the place. So it turns out that about 10,000 years ago, our ancestor, who were living not far away from Hong Kong, has found a genetic variation of this wild plant, and they have a mutation, and the mutation is such that this rice, the seeds are really firmly attached to the plant. So the wind could not blow them away. So it's not good for the plant, but very, very good for the farmer, because the wind will not remove the grain, the rice grain, waiting for them to be harvested. So these are really, really cool stuff. But But then, of course, very, very slow. Our ancestor took around 5,000 years to produce that mutant rice. We can't wait for that for 5,000 years to another miraculous mutation to happen so that we can utilize the mutation to improve food productivity. So about 100 years ago, people starting to think about ways to speed up these mutations. So, for example, they start to cross different plants with different properties together in order to produce, if you like, manufacture plants with the desired properties. But at the same time, they start to mutate seeds by exposing them to X-ray, for example, increasing rates of mutation, and therefore increasing the chance of getting mutants with more desirable phenotypes or desirable properties. So this has been going on all the time. And then in the year 1983, 31 years ago, three scientists has done something kind of as a continuation of this trend of mutation finding. They did the following experiment. At that time, 1983, I think is the year when the film Back to the Future was made. So basically, the technology was really not so advanced, and especially in terms of molecular biology. But what they did was something, to me, quite cool. So what they did is they took a gene from one organism, and that organism is a virus, actually. So from one organism, I think you will have the slide. They took a gene from one organism, which is a virus, and then somehow cut this gene out and then put it into a second organism, which is a bacteria, right? So now you have a new organism, which is a hybrid between a virus and a bacteria, and then the bacteria will infect a plant. So the bacteria, this new hybrid virus bacteria thing, will introduce this gene into a plant, making a third new organism. So we call this transgenic plant. Trans means transport or transfer. So meaning a plant that result from transfer of genes from not one but two organisms. So this has never been done before. It's been done in other organisms such as bacteria, even mammals, lower mammals, but never been done in plants before. 30 years later, in the year 2013, these three scientists was awarded the World Food Award for the contribution of doing this kind of scary gene transfer experiment. So why did they do that? What is it to do? There was nothing to do with food production, but it was just boring scientific experiments. These people are academics. But then one of them later became a vice president of Monsanto. So this is a longer story. But anyway, why is it related to food? Now, because of this experiment, it is technically possible to change behavior and properties of plants, meaning crops, by simply selecting genes from different organisms and put them, therefore, the properties the gene produce into a plant. We can actually shop around our plant kingdom and also animal kingdoms for specific properties, look for the genes, and then take the genes out, just like a cassette, into a plant, and then the plant will inherit these desirable properties. We don't need to wait for 5,000 years. We don't even need to wait for 10 years. This experiment will take only 1 month to produce a plant that will inherit these desirable properties. So the scientists will say, how cool is that? The non-scientists will say, that's rubbish. So here it goes. But then a few years later, 9 years after that first transgenic plant experiment, this is the first commercialized GM crop. This is the first crop that used this technology to produce a food, commercial approved by the FDA. This is called Flavor Saver tomatoes. You can't buy this anymore. This is a failed commercial experiment. Scientifically, I'm going to tell you more about it if I have time, that this plant, this tomato, the first ever commercial GM crop, was a technology that is ahead of its time. It's using so-called gene silencing technology to not introducing a new protein to the crop, but to remove an existing protein in tomato. That particular gene encodes for an enzyme that breaks down the cell wall, the skin of tomato. So for example, this is the ordinary tomato. They have this enzyme. On storage, this enzyme will come out and digest the skin of the tomato. But then these people, they remove this gene. Therefore, the skin will stay longer, and therefore the tomato will stay fresher. So here, even after 45 days, this tomato will stay almost as fresh as a fresh ordinary tomato. So how cool is that? It's not cool anymore. This company owned the patent. The company that owned the patent is a small California biotech company. They closed down after only a few years. Nobody liked this food. They hate it. The company was bought by a much bigger biotechnology giant called Monsanto. And Monsanto not only bought this product, but they also bought the technology of creating transgenic crops. So here it go again. So now this is the second idea, the second wave of transgenic or GM crops. So it goes like that. Is it okay? Can you follow me, or is it? I can see already some of the people changing, slightly changing they try to do that, but then slightly doing this. But let's stay with me. About 100 years ago, a Japanese scientist has discovered that there are some naturally occurring bacteria. And this bacteria has a strange properties. The bacteria, the name is this one, Bacillus thuringiensis. So you can actually buy this from eBay. So live bacteria. This bacteria has a very, very strange properties. This bacteria kills insect. They don't kill big insect, but they kill insects' babies. And that's because this bacteria, I'm sorry about this slide, I use this slide for my lecture. So this part is completely, the lower part is completely useless, upper part. This bacteria, in short form BT, make a protein. The protein is called crystallose protein. When the insect's baby eat the crystal proteins, the guts of the insect's baby will turn this protein, bacteria protein, into a very, very toxic material. The insect's baby will die because of the guts. All the guts will be broken, basically rotten. This protein is completely harmless to non-insect baby organisms. If you're not insect baby, you're fine. If you're insect baby, you'll be dead. So this is actually a natural herbicide, because it is a target biological warfare, and human farmer quickly utilize this warfare. So bacteria, you can culture a buckload, and then you can actually buy from eBay, and you can spray this bacteria in your garden, but because this protein is non-harmful to anything that is other than insect babies, so the plants are fine, humans are fine, you can eat those bacteria without any problem. But then, if you spray this live bacteria in your garden, then the insect cannot eat your plant, basically. So scientists in Monsanto decided that they know about this bacteria, they know about this protein, crystal protein. They also know the gene of the bacteria that make this crystal protein. How about using this transgenic approach to cut this crystal protein bacteria gene out and introduce to a plant, so that the plant itself is turned into a bacteria, if you like, and make the crystal proteins. You don't need to spray the buckload of Bt bacteria, because your plant has inherited these properties of making these protein that kills bacteria, that kills insect babies. So here's the idea. So they cut the genes that make, they take the bacteria, Bt bacteria, cut out the genes that make the crystal proteins and put them into a virus. And then basically they make this, a lot of this DNA, the genes that make crystal proteins, and they introduce this into something very, very cool. Something is called gene gun, shooting this DNA into the plant, and then make the new plant that will have the properties of making the crystal proteins. Not only they can make the crystal proteins by themselves, but their children, the plant's children, will forever possess the properties of making these crystal proteins. So this is the beginning of the world of GM food. Because those plants have inherited properties of killing all bacteria's baby, so the bacteria cannot even come close to those crops. You know, eating, one of the problem of the farmer is their crops being eaten by insects, right? But those crops are fine. They won't be eaten by the insects because the babies will be dead. So here is a list, a partial list of, so I'm sorry, fast forward to 2014 and fast forward to today. So here is a list of all the approved crops, partial list of the approved cropped GM crops that are used as food. You're not supposed to eat this, you're not supposed to read the list, these words are so small. But in summary, almost all the GM crops that are now being used as food carries external genes that are doing either of the following two things. The first one is insect resistant, as you can see the word crystal protein. They're different types of crops, but they carry the same genes from the same bacteria, the anti-bacteria gene, anti-insect genes. So the second properties are herbicide resistance. So they introduce genes into the crops that makes the crop super resistant to herbicides, so that you can spray herbicides, insecticides into your crop, but your crop, because of this inherited resistance, will not be dead, but all the other non-GM plants will be dead. Yeah? So by doing so, you increase yield because the insect cannot come close to eat your crop, and also your crop is super resistant to herbicides, and you can actually use herbicides very smartly. In fact, there's suggestion that you can actually use less herbicides to in your farm, but then and your crop will still be okay. Huh? So this is the ideal world for the future, because by doing this gene transfer experiment, making this modification, you can make stronger, better, and more productive crops. So I don't think I have time to go through that, but you probably don't notice that before, when we are small, when all of us are small, when you cut open an apple, the apple will become brown. Huh? But now not anymore. It's very difficult to buy apple that turn brown, and this is also because of gene technology. I don't have time for that, don't have time for that, don't have time for that. So fast forward, bright future for agriculture because of gene transfer technology, but people, the general public, they hate it. I did a Google image search, I was preparing for this talk, and I did a Google image search using the word GMO. This is what I get, this is from my computer. So basically, random sampling of what's happening on the internet, you see image of a scientist, both, by the way, and they're injecting dangerous chemical into the apple. This is the image of GM crops. You can also see the children look like that if they eat. You're injecting some colorful chemicals, toxic things, dangerous things into the crops. Not so nice in terms of public image. So, and then you have also other websites. There's a website called there's a place called Institute of Responsible Technology, and they're publishing scientific, I hate to do that, articles about how GM food is cause dangerous, how toxic they are. And there are also lifestyle magazines that my wife likes to read about how to avoid eating GM food, how GM food is going to make us crazy, sick, or both. So these people also mentioned that nearly every independent animal feeding experiment shows adverse and unexplained effects. And we're not supposed to know about this because big biotech companies are covering them up. This is roughly the kind of climate we are living in. There's something wrong with GM food. We don't know what that is. We are not allowed to know about it because either big pharmaceutical company, big biotech company, or American government, they're doing everything to cover them up. So there are also scientists who are publishing papers. For example, French scientist, he's a professor in ecotoxicology. His name is Professor Seralini, and he published a paper in the year 2012 showing that if they feed lab rats with GM food, I think it's maize, they will get cancer. So instantly, he became a hero of mankind, right? Because he's fighting against this big pharmaceutical company and the American government. But then, very, very quickly, people starting to, after the hips of a few weeks, people starting to notice that there's some problem with his research. And the problem is he's using a strain of lab rats that are very prone to have cancer spontaneously. So, and basically what he was reporting is more or less like a baseline cancer development with or without GM food. So, and then there are some Russian scientists, and they told the mass media that they are doing an experiment, and they're observing rats eating GM food, and they have a webcam looking at the rats in 24 hours a day, and you can go to the website and look at and see the rats and see how they're doing. It turns out to be a hoax. There's no experiments. They're just joking. So just last week, there's a big paper that came out in the Journal of Animal Science, and what they did is as follows. Well, a lot of these GM food are not consumed by human eaters, human consumers. These GM food are made as animal feed. So they use it to feed animals. And there are many, many animals, or farm animals. So what they have done is as follows. What they have done is they look at the health conditions of the farm animals, those animals that are being farmed before the year 1996, before the GM crops was legalized, and then after the year 1996, when the GM food for the animals, and these animals has been eating GM food for many, many decades. Not the animals, but their children, grandchildren. They are having the same family lineage living on GM food for decades. If there is any problems with GM food, people will notice it because the people publish health conditions of farm animals all the time. So what they have done is to analyze the weight, general health of the farm animal before and after the invention of GM food as animal feed. This is called the 100 billion animal experiment because they actually analyze data from 100 billion animals. 100 billion is 1,000 億 animals, data from 1,000 億 animals. So it's really a lot. And the conclusion is there's no difference. So this paper just came out last week, and then Forbes magazine said the debate over the risk associated with GM food is effectively over as of last week. Wow, scientists say, yeah, I told you so. But then common people said, they're just making this up. I don't trust them. I have engaged with the public about GM food for more or less 10 years, and this is what I want to say. Everything I told you about, that manipulation of genes was being done for almost 10,000 years in human history, that what we're doing is nothing really new, that what we're doing is based on really, really cool science, and that all scientific investigation, at least the serious one, point out that there's no health problems with GM food. But I'm trying to say that I'm a scientist, please believe in me, because I got a PhD. But then, when I was telling them, do you know what the problem with thinking? The problem are thinking this. The problem are listening to me that I'm an arrogant bastard, and I want to force feed my science to them without really good explanation, without understanding their fear, and at the same time, in my shadow, there's something behind me. There's something that motivates me to promote GM food. In fact, I don't do that. Huh? So, a few years ago, my student, Dominic Law, he was so interested about this phenomenon, about this complete lack of trust between scientists and the public, that he did the following work as his graduation project. And the work is to understand how the general public digest scientific data, especially about GM food. Huh? I would like to share with you his result. So one of the questions, he interviewed about 200 CityU students, just like many of you here, non-science students, by the way. So, and then he asked these students a number of questions, actually a large number of questions, but I only have time to share with you 3 questions. The first one is about this. Huh? So these are the data. Whenever the bar is towards this end, which means that strongly agree, towards this end is strongly disagree. The question is, do you think scientific development is too fast to follow? Well, most of the people neither agree or disagree. The next one is, do you think your scientific knowledge is enough for the rest of your life? No, they don't think so. They don't understand it. Do you think, so maybe because of time, do you think business is a driving force behind science? Yes. Yeah? Do you think science development is getting out of control? Yes. Right? So the conclusion is science is getting out of control. The public, they don't have enough knowledge to understand what is going on. They just know that it's out of control. But this out of control is driven by business interest. Next. So, but where did they get the information from? Yeah? So we asked them whether they read newspaper, books, magazine, internet, or TV. So, and then they asked them how many hours of these activities did they do in a week. So I was from the age of watching TV, so I told Dominic, my student, I bet TV is the winner. So answer is, most of the people watch 0 to 5 hours of TV per week. That's less than 1 hour per week, per day. Huh? Nobody watch TV anymore, young people. But look at the internet. So most of the people spend 16 to 30 hours on the internet a week. Some people, more than 20% of people, spend more than 61 hours on the internet per week. That's 9 hours per day. So, when they go to the internet, this is what they see. This is what they see. Science, we have left a void. We don't communicate with the public through the internet. We communicate with the public through publishing papers. We don't directly engage with the public. But people who like to think that when people eat GM food, they look like that, they do. They learn, they know how to do that. The next one, where did they get information about science, especially GM food from? I'm sorry about this slide. Huh? So, complicated slides. Let's go through this reasonably slowly. The blue bar is how much or how important this channel is in getting information. Huh? So the taller the blue bar, the more important is it. So TV, news on TV is okay, it's quite high. But then the one with the highest bar is, once again, internet. Most of the students, CityU students, get their science information from the internet. So this is roughly, and then now we also ask the student, or Dominic asked the student, to rank these channels according to whether you trust it or you don't trust it. So for example, big bar, original research paper, they really trust it. But then, so it's good, but then they don't read that much. They know about it, they trust it, but it is an unimportant source of the scientific information. So here is something that we don't understand. Huh? Internet is something that they get the information from, but they don't trust it. They read it, but they don't trust it. So another thing, camping groups, they don't get information from it, they don't trust it. Anybody from Greenpeace? And then even more striking information, politician, 100% of the students said they don't trust it. They don't trust them. 0% of the students said they got information about science from politicians. They don't like them, they don't trust them. So here's the story. The general public, especially young people, they don't trust figures of authority. They trust scientists, thankfully, but they don't understand enough science to understand what I just said. At the same time, internet is a hugely powerful and popular channel of information. They don't trust it, but they couldn't find a better and more reliable source of information. So, this last line, huh? I don't have time to go through many interesting, maybe we can sit down here and discuss together. But in the same year when my student did this survey in CityU, another group of students, they did an international survey, not about science information, but about GM food, or in their case, so-called DNA technology. And they asked people, once again, university students from different countries, to say that GM food, would you like to buy GM food, right? Red is no, blue is yes. So you can see, most of them, the red is longer than blue. Huh? So where China, this is how we are doing. And Bahama is crazier. 0% of people from the Bahama said they will buy GM food. And then this student who did the questionnaire, they changed the question a little bit. And the question is as follows. Because the technology of transferring genes from one organism to another organism is also being used to make a lot of drugs. In fact, most of the drugs involve the same technology, either during the research phase or during the production phase. So the next question is, in case of serious disease, would you like to take drugs that are made based on the same technology? Then the question, the tide is totally changed. Huh? Mostly blue. They will say yes. And very few people, for example, in Romania, very few people will say no. Which means that maybe the technology is not that scary. The technology is scary or undesirable when we have the luxury of choosing. If we cannot choose, for example, in the life-death situation, most of the people will take it. Now, because of the growing world population, decreasing cropland, maybe now in our generation, we are in this situation. Our generation is a generation of making decisions. Our food supply is changing within our generation from something luxurious, something that we don't even care about because we always have enough to eat, to maybe in a few years later, 10, 20 years later, a life and death situation. Any technology, experiments, research that points to increase of crop productivity should be embraced and funded. So this is my last message to you. Is it okay? I'm overrun by a lot. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your attention.
We'll move on, and I would like to invite Professor Paul Shin to come up to stage and tell us all about horseshoe crab conservation. Okay.
Okay, I hope that you won't fall asleep, and I'll try not to let you fall asleep. I can get the pointer. Okay. I want to look at this animal in a different way because I was thought that this is the technology forum. So what I'm going to do is to tell you a bit what we've been doing at CityU with some information internationally about this animal. This animal is not like a cute dolphin that you love, or even a turtle that's so big. This is called horseshoe crab. In fact, the name comes from this metal outfit which we use to tap onto the hoof of the horse to prevent the wear and tear of the hoof of the horse when he's galloping on ground. So why this animal is called a horseshoe crab? Because its frontal shape is not like a horseshoe. Okay. Hopefully in this talk, I'm trying to give you some answers to these three questions. Why should we care about them? Okay. What are the threats that will affect the survival in the field? And the last question is that I will give you a little bit of our findings of study at CityU, what we're going to do to help this animal. This animal, although it calls a crab, it does not belong to the crab family. In fact, this animal is a relative of the spiders and scorpions. So all this kind of nasty insects. My wife hates them. My children hate them. Scorpion, spider, mice, and ticks. And you're also very close to I presume here nobody has seen this one, but this one exists in Hong Kong in the marine water. It's a sea spider. Okay, horseshoe crab have, like other scorpions and the relatives, they have a fused head and thorax. That's the name, call it the prosoma, an abdomen, our tummy, and a spine, a telson. Of course, in the scorpion, the spine is very short, but of course, very nasty. This spine for horseshoe crab is not that nasty. It won't fight you. It has a different function for the animal in the water. All these kind of spiders, scorpions, or mites and ticks have one common characteristic. It's a pair. There are 6 pairs of walking legs. But the first pair is modified into one, we call it a chelicerae, which is a pincer like the small fork that you use to when you have dessert, a cake after a dinner function. Now, we have about over 70,000 species of mice, ticks, scorpions, all the things in the world. We have about over 1,000 species of sea spider in the world. But in the world, we only have 4 species of horseshoe crab now. They are the American horseshoe crab, the one on the left side, the Chinese horseshoe crab. There's other country or region call it different name. In Japan, they call it Japanese horseshoe crab. We have the one called Indo-Pacific horseshoe crab. In Indonesia, they call it the Indonesian horseshoe crab. In Malaysia, they call it the Malay horseshoe crab. In India, they call it the Indian horseshoe crab. You see the nationalism about the animal. And then there's also one called the mangrove horseshoe crab, which is the smallest one of the 4. The largest one is the one that called the Chinese horseshoe crab, where the width of the prosoma or the carapace could last about length about 25 to 30 cm in width, where this small specimen of mangrove horseshoe crab is only about 15. It's a very small size here. The lower panel of this slide shows the differences of the male of the horseshoe crab. So for Hong Kong student people, if you look at the Chinese horseshoe crab, a male one is very easy to find because it got 2 notches at the front end. Okay? And for the other one, the mangrove horseshoe crab, which also are present in Hong Kong, that is smaller, the smallest one, and its tail is not as triangular in cross-section, but it's a bit rounder. In fact, the name roticorda means a round tail. The distribution of our 4 horseshoe crab in the world is that the American horseshoe crab only exists from the state of Maine up to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Of course, Delaware Bay is the prime location where thousands of horseshoe crabs could be found approaching this, the edge of the shore, which I'll show you a picture later. In Asia, we call all this, in fact, called Asian horseshoe crabs here, are all located within Japan down to Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and all to the west to the India. In Hong Kong, as I explained to you, we have 2 species. So I always make a joke to our colleagues in the US that we beat you with 2, you have 1, so we have more of this kind of species here. So what is important of horseshoe crab is not nice looking. In fact, when I try to sell the image of horseshoe crab to somebody said that, why? Nasty looking. I like dolphin. I like giant panda. I like something. It's not cute. But in fact, horseshoe crab have a long evolution history about 500 years ago. Okay? And its morphology, it means this is shape, had not been changed around 300 million from here to here. They all look like really much the same. And that's why biologists or people call it a living fossil, a specimen, an animal or wildlife that have not changed its morphological feature for a long history of time. What I said here is that there are 5 major or mass extinction on Earth, as we know in our evolution history. I'm not going through what happens. Of course, a lot of you should know about the disappearance of our dinosaurs, the Jurassic Park animal. They appear on Earth around 200 million years to about 65 million years. Of course, there was a lot of scientific evidence to show that due to the impact of a very huge meteorite. In fact, there's about 10 kilometer wide big meteorite struck on to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. That was a belief that causing the change of the world, the earth, in terms of the environment, etc., leading to the eventual disappearance of the dinosaur. But horseshoe crab survive. So instead of we call them the living fossil, Professor Richard Forte, in fact, he came to Hong Kong a couple years ago, and he is a retired paleontology specialized in trilobites in the National History Museum in UK. He wrote a book in 2011 called The Survivors. He did not call it living fossil because in his mind, his view, this animal, horseshoe crab is one of them, in fact passed through all these different mass extinctions and happily and survived up to today. But yet, such survivor, even though the horseshoe crab is now facing an imminent threat of extinction. And this is the story that I'm going to tell you a bit and why we're doing to help them. So the first story about horseshoe crab is that it's about the picture. Horseshoe crab is good because of its blood. So in fact, you can see the title here, the blood could be a gift to the horseshoe crab because it's used them to protect themselves from all this kind of bacterial, whatever invasion to the body. It's good for them. But they also offer as a food for them because people utilize the blood, and that is a problem. Okay? That we backtrack to 1940s, however, the scientists developed a method to test fever because we know that there's substances, whatever, for bacteria, whatever, could be able to, when you get this thing into your body, it will generate fever, a high body temperature. So we want to make sure that whatever you take in, like medicine, all this thing into the body, will not cause fever. Those substances, we call it pathogen, okay? So there's a test called pathogenic test using rabbit in 1940. What it is that because the bacteria, particularly a type of bacteria, the gram-negative bacteria, produce what we call the endotoxin. Okay, it's a kind of carbohydrate or kind of things that secrete from the cell wall of that type of bacteria. If you got it into your body, it will create you a fever. And so in the old day, people used the rabbit, bunny, to mimic human because they respond the same. So you start your needle, inject whatever you have suspected to have this kind of a pathogen into the ear wing of the rabbit, and monitor body temperature by sticking a thermometer, like a baby, into the rectum, in the bum, and monitor the temperature, see whether it rise or not. But it was costly because you're not using one rabbit. You use a lot of rabbit, control, etc. It's time consuming because the whole thing, reaction response, will take about 48 hours or more than that. And it's only give you a qualitative. That means it's not give you any quantitative data. It gives you, okay, yes, the rabbit got a fever. You got a problem. Or there's a presence of pathogen in the animal or in the particular sample they're going to test. But in 1956, a pathologist called Dr. Frederick Bang at the Johns Hopkins University discovered that the horseshoe crab blood could do the same thing. It would gel, will clot, fixed, or become a solid when you detect certain endotoxin or something coming out from outside into the body. So in 1964, Dr. Jack Levin and Dr. Bang, they study the mechanism from that phenomenon and come up with what they call is a limulus. Limulus, of course, is the genetic name of the American horseshoe crab, whereas Tachypia is the genetic name for the Chinese horseshoe crab. A test called LAL, amebocyte lysate, or call it TAL if you're using the Chinese horseshoe crab. Amebocyte, in fact, is the white thing you can see here. That is your white blood cell. If you put the white blood cell, if the horseshoe crab are so kind, they can donate the blood out. Okay, I'll tell you why it's blue. You use the amoebocyte or the white blood cell, put it into distilled water, it will burst. Lysis is the burst. When you burst, you capture those kind of protein, polypeptides, and then the very different types, and then you freeze dry those things, and then you can use that kind of thing to detect endotoxin. It's very scientific, very fast, about an hour to do so, and you can also make it quantitative by manipulating, and you can have certain color, like Professor Lam said that you have a color kind of signal, or maybe some other signal so that you can measure the strength of the endotoxin level. Why the blood is blue in horseshoe crab is that because it does not contain iron, our body, our blood, which we have hemoglobin with iron, but the horseshoe crab blood has a copper. A copper, when it reacts with the air, exposed to air, change to copper, maybe the copper oxide, which of course is blue in color. Okay, this is called blue blood. In fact, this kind of blood, this kind of blood very costly. So that's why since then, in 1970, the Food and Drug Administration in USA adopted this method as one of the only method can use the blood for testing endotoxin from this gram-negative bacteria, apart from using Replica. Okay, and because that people try to use this one here. And that's what's happened in Hong Kong as well. I got this picture from Dr. Nowitzki, who in fact worked on this LOL in USA for many years. He's retired already, but he still have a lot of interest. This picture he gave to me, or he sent to me, allowed me to use that. It was taken in 1980 in Western District in Hong Kong, in the apartment of some shark fin processing facility, whereby you can see laborer, women, ladies, gentlemen, trying to get the horseshoe crab blood to make this lysate. It was not made in Hong Kong. You send it out to Japan to make the lysate. Okay, there's only a couple of horseshoe crab here, but that was the one that had been used. Thousands shipments of horseshoe crab were shipped and get the blood out and did this kind of lysate production. Okay, and I was told that it happened for a long time, probably maybe end in the year 2000, whatever, because we have got a supply. And of course, you won't get this operation now in Hong Kong. But in China, this operation is still going on. I'll show a picture and you can see what happens. So this is the one thing. In America, USA, this kind of lysate operation is regulated. Okay, you can collect horseshoe crab in the wild, do this business, but you have follow a protocol. Ensure that they mostly they survive after this kind of operation, this donation of blood. Okay, we'll go for it. The other use of horseshoe crab, of course, is for as a bait. This is not in Hong Kong or not in China, but it's a really big business in USA that they use it as a bait for catch conch. Big conch is sent to Asia, in fact, but here, and then they also for eel fishery as well. This one, the fishermen got so many in a whole basket, and then they'll catch the bait. Because the smell of the crab, when you chop it into pieces, and then the conch on the seabed will all get into the trap, and you got it. Okay, that's a sad story. This was also taken by Dr. Nowitzki, and is that these Chinese horseshoe crab were used for breeding for their blood until they're all dried. And then they were all dry here. Why? Because the shell, or you can see the general shell of the horseshoe crab could be able to use that for chitin. Chitin is very good stuff. For operation, you go to hospital, if you got paper, you fix it and use the stitches to stitch your wound. Those surgical threads, in fact, are made from chitin because they can dissolve afterwards, even inside the body. So one thing you can do. There are also a good advantage of chitin as fertilizer as well. So the big business is a pretty tragical story because eventually, instead of putting back the crab into the water, they all die after sacrificing for the blood. There's in Hong Kong, in Asia, that we eat horseshoe crab. In Guangxi, many people eat it. In Thailand, the whole horseshoe crab is grilled, and then you can see it on the store, on the street here. Okay? Don't believe me. I'm not going to ask you to try. Please don't try. I haven't tried before, okay? Don't try it. It's fishy. It's very fishy and it's not good to eat, in fact. Okay? A little bit more about uses of it. But that is not a problem with itself, the horseshoe crab, because it's very long history and life history. And I'll give you a little bit here. The adults, okay, they are all living in water, okay? But during the reproduction around the Hong Kong, around April to September, they all swim to the head of the upstream in pair, and they will lay the eggs, and of course the male get the spawn, and then they become fertilized. They will, after about a month or so, they all become baby larvae. The larvae will become bigger. That will take about 10 years. They molt like a lot of insects. They molt, and then they take 10 years on the beach to become bigger, sexually mature, and move back to the water. 10 years in Hong Kong is not a long time, short time, because 10 years, a lot of places where the crabs staying, living, will become apartments, whatever thing. That, of course, happened in Hong Kong, in many other Asian countries as well. Okay, that's also a problem. When the crab go to the shore for spawn, they face this thing. This in Taiwan, they face in Hong Kong. Embankment, fishing net sticking out on the shore for catching fish, but of course they also catch horseshoe crab, or the abandoned net, all this thing also will entangle the crab and they all die. There's a problem over here. That's what I saw a couple of years ago in Piccolo Bay, which is in Delaware. Thousands of crab coming in springtime for spawning. This is USA. This is Hong Kong. A student of mine, about a couple of months ago, saw a pair of Chinese crab here when he took students out for Dong survey. Of course, we do have a pair. This is taken from Dong Chung, where a pair of mangrove horseshoe crab going to do business when they go back to the shore for spawning. You will find horseshoe crab in Hong Kong, but babies. You follow the track, and you will find a baby. The baby are so small that the tails only could be seed. This only hatch out from the little egg here. There's a bit longer tail. That means it's at least hatch or molt one or time or more. Okay, very small. Okay, that's right there. Our students were out muddy, dirty. I hate that. We hate that. That after we have done a lot of surveys, this is the new survey. The new survey is where we got data which is more depressing than this one. This was done in 2014, 12. You can see that we only have, these are all the shore that we find horseshoe crab. Either one shore with one type or some shore with two types, whatever, doesn't matter. But then we have, it's depressing here that we only have about 4,500 small babies on the shore for Chinese horseshoe crab and about 3,000 of the mangrove horseshoe crab. Now, this 1,000 seems to be a big number. No. In the biology, in the life of this horseshoe crab, I'll tell you that in nature, 8,000 eggs only come up with 10 adults, about 0.01%. 10,000 eggs, we give you one adult in nature. Mother Nature is very cruel to horseshoe crab. So that we got a problem. So 4,000, if we maintain this one in a couple of years, if no recruitment, no reproduction, or no spawning again, this horseshoe crab in Hong Kong disappear. Okay? So what we're going to do, about 10 years ago, we started a program, we call it ex situ. That means we try to raise horseshoe crab, put it back, and see where that will go. Because we believe that human care make them happy, and hopefully they will go back to the shore happily. So we started 10 years ago. We didn't know what to do there. I'm not that kind of expert. We didn't know anything. We start to use the eggs by killing a pair of male or female, scoop the egg out, the sperm, and mix it with the petri dish and produce the babies. But we think that it's cruel. And they've sacrificed a pair. So what we're going to do next step, we use our students, we use some stimulation across the animal. We don't know what stimulation they would like to make babies. So maybe we use some little bit of electricity, little bit, okay? So touch it the genital area, so stimulate the eggs come out. You work, but I think that's still cooler, right? Imagine sticking something into your genital and get some sperm or what out. It's not good. So eventually, that's what happened, okay? But we really can be able to maintain that kind of production in terms of development of the embryo from the egg fertilized, and then the baby is still within the egg, and then you come out, we call it first instar. When you come out from the egg after 35 to 40 days, that is called first instar. And then the tail is very short, no tail, and the mouth, no mouth, so you won't eat anything. You still rely on the yolk of the egg. And then after about another 1 or 2 months, and then you become and more again. Then the mouth start this eye, the mouth start here, and then the tail. That's the second star. So each molting we call it one star. Okay, but eventually we figure out a method now. So now we did not do cruel thing to the pair of horseshoe crab. They are doing happily. They do the thing in their own business in the lab. We figure out how to do that. Of course, like Professor Lam said that there's an IP, right? We don't tell you. But anyway, you can do a business here. We give you some music. No, we don't need music. If we do that in the lab, and then we produce egg and produce different type of the first instar larvae, and then we have different sizes now we produce. But that has been a success that we have. But of course, we think that we need to raise that. What to do? So of course, we use different type of food, feed. Okay, and this is what our students have done. We use we measure or we look at the content of the food, shrimp, crab, salmon, worm, or mixed together, and you find that a lot of them have very high protein. So high protein is very important. Okay, so we put this thing to the juveniles, about 7 star, the big one about 30 mm length width, for 48 days. For 84 days. Sorry, 12 weeks. And we found that, okay, they like crabs. They grow bigger, and of course grow away or doesn't matter. They're all bigger. So crab better than worm or whatever. So good, buy crab, feed them, okay? Why crab bigger? Bigger, because they eat faster, the rate faster, always, through the 12 weeks. And then we also measure something, but still not also measure about the blood. Because we test the blood to know about your health status. We can't ask the baby, say, are you happy? So we look at the blood. For example, the amyloid, the density, the numbers in the blood, the hemocyanin, which is the protein that carry the oxygen, and then we have the amyloid, the morphology, the 2 different types. No matter what they're doing, of course, it changes from over the experimental period. But you can see is that if you give them all the treatment, whether you use clam, they didn't change a lot, okay? And in fact, they also have high protein, they're okay throughout the 12 week. We also did one test with another student to formulate a baby food, so that forget clam, give them some baby food, okay? So students use a lot of marketable, available kind of food like fish meal, all this thing there. And we'll test about the protein, about the carbohydrate, and then we also mix different formulae. Now we have different formulae from 1 to 9. And we found that this is the best one, which contains about 40% of digestible protein, about 40% of digestible energy. That's the best one to go. So now we know the formula, okay, to feed them. So we also did some experiment to look about long term. This experiment lasts for more than a year, about 15 months. And students also did that. We looked at from zero, from the baby, the egg, and all this thing here, and found that, yeah, you grow bigger. That is our experiment. You feel about 30 months, you grow like that. If we project our data to the adult, which about 15 instar, that means about molting this so many times, we would take about 4 years. Remember I told you, it takes 10 years in nature. Now we can get it in only 4 years. Okay? Something we can do about that now. But that is not the end story because we need to put it back into the field. So we start experiment to ensure that they survive. But we don't know how. So we use a tag which is called PIT tag, which is a RFID technology thing. So you can scan the tag, inject in the body. We cannot use the mark because the mold then will disappear. So we inject the tag, and then we can use a scanner. So we did a 9-month kind of survey, 9 months. Of course, you can find that, yes, they survive, they grow. Of course, there's some variation. This one disappears, so we don't know what happened. But the others, they grow, or 80% more, they survive in the wild. Okay? We also look at stable isotope to find out what they eat in the field, because we cannot ask them, we cannot trace them. So we collect the clams, shrimp, whatever in the field. We use the stable isotope 13 and nitrogen 15. We also look at the tissue of the animal. So we found that they eat different things at different stage. Baby or 6-inch start, they eat mostly bivalve in the summer, and then they also eat seagrass. And then in the winter, they change. Okay, they change. Why they change? Because they can select different food types. Okay, that's what using this method, we can trace what they're eating. There's another story. We think that what we are doing is only for our research, but I think that we can expand it more. So in 2009, we started with a program with Ocean Park Conservation Foundation, and then we have followed this for about 4 years now. So many school times participate. Over 2,000 students work on care the animal in their school. Okay, and then there are about 50,000 students, teachers, whatever. They also know about horseshoe crab. What they're doing there, they try to what we all do there that want to know. We want to know about biology of horseshoe crab, etc. But you want to make sure that they know about how to be responsible to take care of the animal and raise the public awareness of the conservation of horseshoe crab. We give them lectures so they know about the animal, etc. Beforehand, we give them some techniques and also ask them to monitor, measure, weigh the babies that we give them from our lab to their school. Okay, so at school they are doing what? They measure, they tag the animal themselves, they told other fellow students about what is about horseshoe crab. The teacher also involved in what they are doing, not the student. The teacher also involved. At the end of the big day, we all went out and released the very carefully taken care kind of animal back to the wild. Okay, that's all we are doing. They're happy. Even the students said that we're sad to see bye-bye to their babies after so many months of care. For 4 months sometimes. The first year we did about 12 months, whatever. Okay? They also did a lot of work apart from horseshoe crab caring. They also try to clean up the shore because the horseshoe crab like better environment, not like rocks or whatever. They also have a teacher parent day, show what they're doing to their parents or the other guys. Okay? So all share. They share with us, share with other fellow students about what they're doing, and they make reflection, what they've learned, not learned, and they also make very creative presentation. I don't know I can't remember what that here. This is not horseshoe crab. It's not a dinosaur. Dinosaur make a horseshoe crab. I think there's a story about that. I can't remember the story now. Okay? So in a summary, this program has some feedback, good feedback. That's why we are going on for another 3 years, whatever, for a lot of time. If Ocean Park give us money, or we agree to do so, is that they really share some message about horseshoe crab as a conservation kind of character. Okay, they think that they have the responsibility to do so to raise the awareness. Last but not least, the IUCN, of course, not like George, our IUCN's horseshoe crab specialist group was established only about 2 years ago. We started in 2012, and we all, of course, horseshoe crab are not listed as data sufficient only, particularly Chinese horseshoe crab in this red listings here. We're working on assessment, working on putting our horseshoe crab onto the map of the IUCN red list. Okay, I just read a book called The Sixth Extinction, a recent book. That means this book tells us a story that by the end of the century, if we have not done anything, humans will try to become the culprit in terms of getting all animals die. Hopefully, horseshoe crab can survive. I need to thank our students all here, but mostly it's my collaborator, Dr. Edgerton, who has lectured. We are working for this animal for about 10 years now. Of course, we work with him for many other things there. He also, of course, that now this all here, and of course, this is Sunshine Boy. Billy is very important because he's working now very hard to do another project as a future project on horseshoe crab here. These are all these members of the IUCN steering committee, very supporting us to our job. Of course, I think I need to thank this guy. Professor Love, some of you may not know him. He is the guru of marine biologist in Hong Kong, Professor Brian Morton. In fact, he introduced us to horseshoe crab before he retired, and he thought that if we did not do anything, this animal in Hong Kong will eventually disappear. And I believe that would be the case. Okay, so I end up with this very nice picture. From a lot of kids, it's a mosaic happy faces of horseshoe crab in Taiwan when we were there. Hopefully, we'll see these happy faces of horseshoe crab in future. Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, may I invite all the speakers to come on stage? We have time for a small number of questions if audience would like to ask. And also, I'd like to invite them on stage so that we can give them all a big thank you for their time and effort in giving us several very interesting and informative talks. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. Any questions from the floor? This is your last chance. Yes, please. There's one at the back. Yes.
Okay. I would like to ask Professor Lam, the film detecting the bacteria, is it used for once? Because I see in the film there are many bubbles inside. And then how it works, is it work once or can be worked many times after washing?
The sensor cannot be reused, and that's we specially designed for it to behave like that, because the color change actually is not.
Yes, the sensor cannot be reused. The color change is not reversible. And that's, we specifically decide it to be like that because we do not want that. Now, for other sensors, they give real-time response. So when you have high level of this biogenic amine, they might give you a color change. But as this biogenic amine dissipate or die down, the sensor might change the color back. Okay, so this might not be desirable because you really want the sensor to have the memory and tell the consumers that that particular pack of meat has already been sort of rotten to an extent that's not fit for consumption. And even though the package like rupture or anything happen or people refrozen it and the sensor will still stay in its red color, orange color, and give the alarm to the consumer. But of course, I mean, people can just remove the sensor, put a new one back. Nobody can stop that. But at least the sensor decides to not be able to turn back its warning. And so, to answer your question, sensor cannot be reused. And that's why it's quite important to keep the production cost low so that we are thinking about like probably like 10 cents, 20 cents per sensor so that they can be like, they will not cause extra cost to food.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please, this one. There's a lady down there.
So a question for Dr. Shin. So I actually want to know more about the horseshoe crab, as you mentioned about the population is decreasing, but is there anything that the government is doing to protect it? Because as a picture showing that about like people still eating it, and I walked by Shai Kong and I still saw some of them swimming in the aquarium for sale, so pretty sad about it. So just want to know the status about like what our government is trying to do.
A very good question. In fact, we're working very hard now, trying to send the message out. In fact, I presume you know that the government is doing a called Biodiversity Action Plan under the Convention of Biodiversity. And in fact, I'm among the members on the committee as well, and there are many other biologists, ecologists that they are doing other things. Of course, one thing we need to do is that we need to get horseshoe crab on the list of protection. Now no, it's not on the IUCN. The government said that it's not IUCN, not government. What we need to do, okay? But I can tell you that in China, horseshoe crabs are listed under what we call the red list species. And in Japan, they don't call it Chinese horseshoe crab, they call it Japanese horseshoe crab, and they are regarded as the national species. So you can see a different country, a different kind of foci on production. I hope, of course, that's what we've been doing. Of course, in association with Night Ocean Park Conservation Foundation, etc., and also IUCN in the backing, we really want to get this animal on the red list internationally, but also locally. One way which could be able to protect horseshoe crab in Hong Kong, I think that is to protect its important spawning or nursery habitat. You can see some of the shores, they're both species of horseshoe crab, and there's some sort of way have more. You can see on the east shore, like Deep Bay area, we got more of the Chinese horseshoe crab. Where on the west shore, on the east shore, like in Lok Gan or this area, we have more on the mangrove horseshoe crab. There's some area we think that we need to protect. If we can protect area, the habitat, we may be able to protect a species here. And one thing very important to know, which I have not talked about, is the adult. What we've been doing is to be able to give you a figure about the babies that are on the shores. We have no idea about the adults because it's in the water. We cannot have a lot of method now. We still need to figure out. But there's something very important. Like our friend George, he studied turtles. Horseshoe crab cannot show a tendency of beach fatality. You move back to the same shore for spawning. We have genetic data to support it. And there are also some other studies in other countries as well. So there's something that if the beach disappear one day, the horseshoe crab, even though they are adult, they won't go back to spawn because it disappears. So that's why something very important in terms of conservation. I'll stop here. I'll let other questions.
Okay, well, let's have 2 more questions if you have. Yes, there's one over there.
Thank you very much. Today we have a very good talk. And my question is to Dr. Lam. You gave it, no, Dr. Lam, thank you. Yeah, you. Your talk is very interesting because you gave it different perspective to understanding the GM food. But in fact, I think perception is everything. Now the society, most of people will not read those scientific paper you mentioned is the most people trust, but they don't read. So what do you think about for example, your insight and your study can be much more easier to understand, or something you can contribute to the society to let us know more about the picture of GM food and the development? Thank you.
You want a short answer or the long answer?
Medium.
The short answer is that I really don't know. I think the popularization of science is a main issue
in older generation of scientists, we didn't really care about it, right? We are living and working, enjoying in the ivory tower. We don't really like to or needed to engage with the public. But now everything is changed because, to be honest, we as scientists we serve the public, right? We get funding from the government, effectively from the public, to fund our research. But if we invented something that we think are useful for the public, but the public hate it simply because they didn't understand it. So in a way, it's a waste of money for them. So to end, so basically the short answer, I don't know. The long answer is we need to think about how to do it. I would like to tell you a small story about wine. Anybody drink wine? You know, some wines are extremely, I know Paul, you're probably a wine lover, no? Maybe George. You know, some wines are really, really expensive, and some wines are really, really cheap, $100 a bottle, and then some wines are $2,000 a bottle. There are scientific data showing that even the wine expert couldn't tell the difference between expensive wine and cheap wine if they remove the label, right? So, which means that scientifically, it's much better to drink cheap wine because it tastes the same anyway, but it's much cheaper. Still, many people, including myself, we enjoy expensive wine because psychologically they taste better. So it's a battle between science or rationalism and personal perception. I guess when I have a lot of money, I don't care about money, I enjoy expensive wine sometimes, but if I don't have money, I will buy cheap wine, right? So just like what I said, now our planet is on the verge of running out of its money in terms of resources, food supply. So we have to make a decision to buy expensive wine at the expenses of some other things and our children's future, or try to explore cheap wine. I think it's an expensive wine versus cheap wine moment. So it is a difficult truth, but we will not be able to afford otherwise. So maybe using examples like this, we can help the public understand the situation we are in now. Is it okay? Or
wonderful.
Medium answer? Or?
Yep, long answer. Anyway, in order to keep the time, I'll ask the last question. George, I just want a quick response from you. What is the outlook for turtle conservation in our part of the world? Because in Hawaii, it looks quite rosy. You've got lots of turtles coming on shore. Based on your understanding, what's the outlook for?
I think the outlook is quite good, but I say that because you have neighboring countries that have increasing robust stocks of nesting turtles. The outlook for nesting in China region immediately, I shouldn't say China region, the People's Republic of China, Taiwan, SAR Hong Kong, is, I think it's getting a little late. It's getting a little late. Too much environmental degradation of the beaches, too much bycatch. But the bright side, you have huge nesting populations in the Philippine Turtle Islands. You have huge nesting populations of green turtles in Sabah, in Sarawak. And all of those turtles are feeding into the South China Sea. Now, a lot of them are being taken, but is it too much that's not sustainable? It seems like a lot, but, 60 million years, sea turtles have been carrying on. They're extremely resilient, they're extremely durable, they're extremely adaptable. Some of the changes in Hawaii are just absolutely amazing what they do. I guess there's a reason they've continued, and well, the nesting stocks in China probably are going to take extraordinary measures to restore them. The fact that there are areas around China that are feeding turtles into the ocean is the good news that I see. And also the good news is that you have younger sea turtle biologists that are passionate about their work. I mentioned 3 of them and their professor, and CityU.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Positive spin is what I feel. I hope that
Okay.
comes across to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now let's come to the end of today's session. There are 2 more things I wanted to do before you leave. One is that I'd like to invite all the speakers to come forward. We'll take a picture. And also I will present a souvenir to George for his visit to Hong Kong all the way from Hawaii. Okay? Only for you.